thumbs up from the back. Well, this is a first. We are good to go, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Who's not muted? Brooks Parker, you're not muted. You want to start the Pledge of Allegiance for us?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilor Parker. Actually, I probably should have said, welcome to tonight's Town Council meeting. It's regular meeting. This is going to be the public hearing for the two proposed town budgets. The Superintendent, Mike Emmett, is here for the presentation of the Board of Ed budget, as well as Town Manager Gary Evans is here for the presentation of the Town Manager budget. Thank you. And I think Town Manager Evans, you've got something for us?
I do. Superintendent Michael Emmett, would you like to give a quick intro as to what the video is?
We've entered some unique times, to say the least, and one of the things that we've been able to do is to continue to be innovative and think outside the box as we provide our kids with a high-quality education. So I'm very pleased to share with the community this evening a performance by the Wethersfield High School Choraleers of our national anthem, done in 22 different homes over the town of Wethersfield.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what some weary at the twilight's last gleaming through the stripes and bright stars, through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we lost, were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets like bells bursting in air gave proof through the night that flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet
Okay, thank you. Just so folks know, there is a new number, or actually a new meeting ID number for the call-in for this. Just before we do anything right now, let me just give an update for folks. Call-in number is 929-205-6099. The meeting ID is 912-9378-4269. Thank you.
Thank you. And just so you're aware, Mayor, the call-in number is still the same. It's the meeting ID, so hopefully that saves your voice by the end of the meeting.
Right. Dolores, will you have the opportunity to take attendance tonight, please?
Okay. Can I talk to you?
Yeah, talking to the mic is best.
Counselor Morin-Bello?
Here.
Counselor Flanagan?
Here.
Counselor Forrest?
Here.
Counselor Hill?
Here.
Counselor Parker? Counselor Pelletier? Counselor Penelo?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Mazzarella?
Here.
And Mayor Michael Rell.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dolores. I appreciate that. Chuck, I got to look around on my screen. Chuck, are you and Mr. Emmett prepared for a presentation? And I guess, Gary, you're prepared to, would you be sharing your screen for this?
I am just allowing Chuck to log in, and I think he's on video.
Correct. And are you sharing our presentation?
I can. In 3, 2, 1. Give me 1 second.
We're good to go?
We are good to go. Just let me know when you need me to switch the page.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Charles Carey, currently the Chair of the Board of Education, and I want to thank Mayor Rell and the rest of the council for having Mr. Emmett and myself here to present our budget. Before I begin, I'd like to thank Mr. Emmett, Mr. Kazaka, and the rest of the administration team for all their hard work and the time they put into presenting a responsible budget to our board. I would also like to thank my fellow board members for all their hard work and dedicated time during this budget process. You can go to the next slide. There, thank you. As you can see, by December 16th, the board had already received a working copy of next year's budget, which is the soonest that we have begun that process in many years. Although the first workshop was canceled, I was pleased that we were able to look over the budget over the holiday break. More importantly, the public was able to see this document, as this board strives to be as transparent and communicative as possible. The board had a series of 3 workshops in January and early February, as you can see from this slide. I'd like to publicly thank the mayor and Deputy Mayor Mazzarello for their attendance and participation in all those workshops. Their dedication to the continued success of education of our students is greatly appreciated. During those workshops, the board was able to learn about the budget in detail. These details will be shared with you shortly by Superintendent Emmett. On March 10th, 2020, I'm proud to say the board unanimously approved the superintendent's recommended budget of 3.5%. The budget was sent on to the town council and the town manager on March 13th. This presentation was originally supposed to be done on March 16th, but as we all know, extenuating circumstances occurred and the presentation was postponed. I will now turn this presentation over to the Superintendent of Schools, Mr. Michael Emmett.
Thank you, Chairman Carey. Good evening, council members, Town Manager Evans, and members of the Wethersfield community. I'm very pleased to be with you this evening, albeit remotely, for the presentation of the board-approved budget proposed for the 2020-2021 school year. Next slide, please, Mr. Evans. Thank you. Our approved 1920 budget amounted to $55,759,339. The Wethersfield Public Schools are proposing a 2021 budget of $57,713,537. This represents an increase of just shy of $2 million, a percentage increase of 3.50%. Next slide, please. This slide walks you through the process that we went through from December. We started our budget in December at an increase of 3.66%. We made an adjustment to the medical and dental insurance to an increase of 12.5%. That number has climbed actually to 13.5% at the present time. We also added in WFT degree changes, which are contractual obligations. So we had a total of $185,000 in additions, which had an increase of 3.99% over our current operating budget. You'll also notice in the right-hand column, we have already looked at reductions. We've come down with IT department reductions. We've eliminated a WHS nurse tutor. We have eliminated the cost of tuition for an outplaced student who has graduated. We have anticipated additional choice revenue through our participation with the Open Choice Program. And we've made an additional instructional supply deduction of $67,000. So we've had a total number of reductions of $269,000 already prior to approval of the budget to bring us in at a 3.5% increase. Next slide, please. The majority of our budget increase, as I've said each year as superintendent, is driven by contractual mandates. This is a breakdown here of our increase. I would bring you right down to the point where you look at the select contractual mandated items account for 97.94% of this total increase. We have WFT contractual salary increases. We have benefit increases as well. We also have transportation tuition increases, which look to be 4.23%. The vast majority of these increases are contractually mandated. They're not nice to haves, they're have to haves. Next slide, please. This is a summary by object. We present this each year. As is the case in school districts across the entire state of Connecticut, the bulk of our budget is made up in people. It's salaries and benefits for our employees. You can see we also have purchase property services. We have professional services and technical services, property, and then a small slice for miscellaneous. Next slide, please. And you can see again, this is a graphical representation with regard to our increase. It is personal services for salaries, personal services for benefits, other purchase services, which I'll get into later on in the presentation, an increase in purchase property services and professional and technical services. You'll see we actually have a decrease in miscellaneous as well as property, as well also as supplies. Next slide, please. So these are our personal services salaries. This is the driver right here. Our WFT contractual and step increases, retaining all our current positions, adding no additional positions. We see an increase of $927,685. With our paraprofessionals, we have a contractual step increase, including our new behavior specialist classification. That represents an increase of $165,336. Next slide, please. I want to talk a little bit about our specialized programs. One of the things that the Board of Education charged me with a couple years ago was to develop in-district programs to decrease the number of students going out to out-of-district placements. Out-of-district placements with regard to tuition and transportation can be exorbitantly expensive. This slide shows two of our programs that we've developed in-house. Our ABA, Applied Behavior Analysis Program. Those programs are housed over at Webb Elementary School, as well as our STRIVE program for students with emotional concerns. That is housed over at Hanmer Elementary School. And you can see that these programs, bringing them in-house, has saved us money as well as applied cost avoidance. Fewer students going out. Keeping our kids in our district schools, keeping them in with their typical peers, and keeping our families engaged right here in Wethersfield. It's been a win-win. Next slide, please. Here we have some other personal services, benefits, and drivers. When we started the OPEB Trust, we've seen an increase in our contribution to the OPEB Trust on a yearly basis. Since this fund was started, we see an increase this year of $78,000. We see an increase to our defined benefit and defined contribution pension plans, $44,957. And again, we're looking at a health insurance cost based on a 12.5% premium increase. We do know that that premium increase is actually up currently at 13.5%. And then again, we also see our increase in Social Security and Medicare based on projected staff and salaries. Next slide, please. With regard to purchase professional services, we see an increase in required special ed consultation services. Special education is one of those mandates. I've often called it a wild card. We have legal obligations to provide a free and appropriate public education for all of our students in Wethersfield. And in some cases, our special education students may need consultation services outside what we can provide within the school system. You see an increase there of $56,250. You see an increase also in legal services due to pending negotiations for 3 bargaining units. And we see a projected decrease in contracted IT services for classroom infrastructure. Next slide, please. I want to talk a little bit about the purchase property services. Here's a driver with regard to our Chromebooks. With the current situation where we have been out of school for the better part of a month and a half, and we await the governor's guidance tomorrow with regard to the rest of the 2019-2020 school year, the rollout of our Chromebooks and the investment that this town has made in Chromebook technology cannot be understated. Just prior to our closure, we rolled out over 1,100 Chromebooks to students in grades 3 through 6. We have one-to-one technology for all of our students in grades 7 through 12. And we have increased the number of devices going home, even for our second graders down to kindergarten, to support our distance learning plan. We are moving forward with a lease. With this lease for the Chromebooks, we'll be leasing 2,000 new Chromebooks. These Chromebooks will replace a cadre of Chromebooks that are going to be coming off lease. Those will need to be sent back to the company on August 18th. So again, I can't thank you enough for your commitment to technology in our school district. And you can see that we will recognize strong savings over the course of time with this lease. Next slide, please. Again, with our other purchase services, one of our drivers is our transportation services. We do have a contractual increase for transportation for next year. We will also see an increase in tuition for our magnet outplay students. We also expect to potentially offset that with an increase in open choice tuition for our students coming in from Hartford. Next slide, please. Again, this is one of those drivers. We've already hit our supplies right up front, so we've had a decrease in instructional supplies throughout the district. We've had a decrease in administrative and office supplies. Within this budget, I will be very frank, there is not a lot of room for cuts. We've cut up front to get into where we are at 3.5%. One of the things that we often cut on a yearly basis is instructional supplies. So we're doing the best we can with where we're at. Next slide, please. And again, as I mentioned before, we are going to see a actual savings here. We're not going to be purchasing Chromebooks. We're going to be looking to lease our units and replenish to sustain the one-to-one initiative. Our Board of Education supported moving forward with our Chromebook lease. I'm very pleased to report that we expect our new Chromebooks to be coming in within the next few weeks. That will allow us to roll out Chromebooks down to grade 2, so all of our second graders will have Chromebooks to be able to utilize for distance learning. Next slide, please. This is a slide that's very familiar. It's one that mirrors our strategic plan, and it engages everyone. Our stakeholders include our educators, our family partners, our Board of Ed and our community partners, and our students. And I'd also like to leave you this evening with this. As we await the word on the status of our 2019-2020 school year, and we think ahead to next year, which may in fact look markedly different from what we've been used to with regard to the COVID-19 pandemic, the state reminds us to consider the four following: equitable access to technology and maintaining funding to provide that. Equitable access to high-quality online curriculum, including necessary supports. Funding education recovery and safely reopening schools. And funding social and emotional well-being programs for our students as they transition back to school. We certainly look forward to getting our kids back in school. We miss them tremendously, to say the least. With that, that's the presentation of the board-approved 2020-2021 budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Emmett. Appreciate that. Let me just, for the viewing audience out there that may have had trouble calling in earlier, the new code or the new meeting ID is 912-9378-4269, and the number is still the same. So. Okay. I believe Mr. Emmett is done, and Town Manager Gary Evans, you have your presentation ready for us?
Yep, thank you, Mayor. If you can just give me 2 seconds to get it set up from a technological standpoint. I'm also going to make one of my helpers here, Cheryl Pierce, the host. This way, if anyone tries to chime in the meantime while I'm giving the presentation, they can be added. So you get a pop-up on the screen somewhere, and it'll say add as host. or, I'm sorry, add, yeah, so go.
So just admit.
Yep. Okay. Okay, we'll try it again now. Thank you again, Mayor, and to Council. To the Honorable Mayor and Council members and taxpayers of the town of Wethersfield, per Section 703 of the Wethersfield Charter, I hereby present the 2020-21 proposed budget for the town of Wethersfield. Before I get into the presentation on the budget, I want to take a moment to acknowledge our emergency responders, including police, fire, physical services, social and youth services, medical professionals, and the numerous volunteers within the community who have come forward to help others in this historically challenging time. The entire town of Wethersfield, state, country, and world have been impacted by COVID. As we begin discussions of what a reopened Wethersfield looks like, I ask that we continue to help each other and ensure we support the town's economy by continuing to shop locally. Recovery will be a heavy lift, but it is made lighter by many people coming together. Over the last 30 days, the town staff have increased efficiencies through use of technology. While not immediate, our silver lining is that we'll gain improved functionality using these new tools. I commend staff for their willingness, capacity, and flexibility to evolve so far and so fast. The budget process began in early January, but was delayed approximately 3 weeks due to COVID. Over the last few weeks, I've been meeting with department heads to review current expenses, upcoming needs, and known barriers for each department. Finance Director Michael O'Neill, his staff, and myself have spent a considerable amount of time working with each department to evaluate and reduce line items based on the economic times ahead. I want to take a moment to acknowledge the work his team has accomplished to date and for the continued advocacy of maintaining a high level of quality of life for residents. What I will present tonight provides a summary of the 2020-21 financial needs for the efficient operation of town government. This presentation includes the town and Board of Education proposed budget numbers, which when combined allowed us to meet a proposed mill rate by the April 27th deadline. Over the next 3 weeks, the council will meet publicly with department heads, the superintendent of school, and myself to discuss these recommendations. My first slide reflects the increase in value gained over last year. And actually, we're going to try something here. Of course, it's not going to work.
Now may not get the time to try something new.
No, it's not really something new. It just was working earlier, but not working now. There we go.
I see it.
Perfect. Okay, my first slide reflects the increase in value gained over last year. The grand list is made up of 3 components: real estate, personal property, and motor vehicle tax. Collectively, these components have increased by this number here, which is a little bit more than $16 million, or less than 0.75% of growth. Comparatively, last year was more than 3%, which is more than 4 times what we're receiving this year. In any budget, there are 3 main ways to cover increases in expenses. You can reduce expenses within your control, you can increase the revenue, in this case, make changes to the mill rate, or some combination of both. The challenge is that expenses would need to decrease by $2.2 million to adjust the mill rate by 1. It also means you'd have to reduce the budget by about $4 million to have no increase. In a moment, I'll summarize what is driving the increase in the proposed budget and my recommendations to reduce the strain on taxpayers. It is important to note that while there is measured increase in internal costs, our external costs have jumped up considerably. The combination of stagnant grand list growth with compounding costs outside of our control requires an evaluation of how we invest resources in order to keep our quality of life consistent. What I am recommending is a combination of fiscal restraint and an increase of 1.39 mils, or the equivalent of 3.1%. This will allow us to cover the increase in costs with minimal disruption of services and quality of life for the community. I spread out reductions evenly by decreasing departmental operation requests, delaying capital improvements, and by eliminating a number of equipment purchases. As manager, I look forward to the public's input on this proposal so I can provide further guidance to the council in determining the level of service delivery to the town. I included this slide to show the changes in our mill rate over the last decade. If you look at the fiscal year 15, or it's really 14 and 15, you see that that's the largest increase over the last decade, and this is due to bonding related to the high school and really set the tone for the next few years following that investment. This next slide is an overview of both revenues and expenditures. The increase in our mill rate is being driven by a 3.73% increase in expenses and expenditures. But if we could take a moment and just first focus on the revenue side. As previously mentioned, our new mill rate will allow us to absorb part of the increase in expenses. And what we've done here is divided revenue into three basic components. That's local taxes paid, which are these two here, state aid, and then other revenues, which includes fees and interest income. If you look at the chart, we've applied the mill rate, the new mill rate, to the grand list, which are these first two rows, which again made up of real estate, personal property, and motor vehicle taxes, which resulted in generating a little bit more than $3.4 million in revenue to cover part of the increased expenditures. Year two of the governor's approved budget also provided some relief with almost $640,000 of assistance to taxpayers. If I can just jump to this slide, we'll go back to expenses and expenditures in a moment. As shown on this page, over the last few years, the state hasn't always been able to provide the relief that we wanted. If you look at fiscal year 18, we see a decrease of almost $2 million in revenues from one year to the next. And state revenues on average have been about 10%, only about 10% of our budget. So going back to that page. Okay, so the question is, how did we get to a 3.73% increase? The total budget, when you're looking at the expenses, are made up of 9 main categories with subcategories listed within. The two largest main categories are the town operations side and the Board of Education. As mentioned earlier, the town's increase is just over $2 million, which can be seen here. This represents an increase of 3.98 from the town side. This increase also includes the maintenance of school buildings, associated utility costs of those buildings, and custodial staffing. As this chart shows, and you can see the $2 million again, the greatest drivers are our pension, medical, trash, sewer, and investment in equipment listed here as CNEF. The investment in equipment is being driven up due to recurring lease payments, some of which will fall off next year. Legacy costs, such as pension and retiree medical, are the result of contracts from the past keeping up with actuarial assumptions to adequately fund our pension system. This year, we're realizing a $386,000 increase in our pension calculation as required by the actuaries. I think it's important to mention that the contracts of the past are not the same of today, as we've taken great measures through negotiations to move from a pension program to a contribution program and to reduce healthcare costs for all parties. Pensions for all non-police new hires haven't existed since 2012. We remain committed to addressing long-term obligations to avoid any negative impact to our town's credit rating. Management and union members should also be acknowledged for their ongoing discussions to help stabilize the budget and going forward as we continue to negotiate contracts on a regular basis. On the town operations side, all contracts include requirements for current employees to help cover costs of the increase to retiree benefits. Today's workforce continues to help reduce the townwide cost burden. This year, there were a number of requests for increased staffing, new equipment, and infrastructure improvements. I removed those from the budget. While these items are needed, I couldn't justify the increased cost to the tax base in such unsure economic times. From my review, we are at critical levels in some departments, yet continue to be creative in finding efficient ways to get things done. Ultimately, we continue to do more with less. Based on contractual obligations, salaries are up 2.4%. Medical coverage continues to rise on a national scale, and we're projecting costs to increase about 13.5% this year. In an effort to control these costs, we've spent a greater portion of this past year researching options and going out to bid in order to find savings. As a result, we've found around $225,000 in savings to date, with an estimate of about $100,000 coming to the town side, which is reflected here. Debt service for Keisha Farms is budgeted from until 2032. And lastly, if you look here for CIP, capital improvement, or CIP, has historically been around $900,000 annually. Despite the need for a greater investment in infrastructure, I'm recommending only funding projects that are critical over the next year. Therefore, I reduced it by $326,000. All right, just quickly, this slide breaks out the capital non-reoccurring, or CNEF, funds that are mentioned from the previous chart. Departments requested about $2.7 million as part of this process. I'm recommending $2 million, which is included in this plan. Of that $2 million, $1.3 million is an offset from the general fund, as reserves aren't available because those funds were used in lieu of leasing in previous years. The next three slides tie to the financial health and strength of the town, as well as our ongoing commitment to legacy costs and how we work to close the gap by maintaining that commitment. First chart is the pension. Actuarial projections place us about 90, I lost my little pointer. Over here. Put us at about 98% for pension assets by the year of 2036. This year, actuaries were required to revise assumptions related to retiree mortality. As a result, the town needs to increase the contribution into the fund to stay on track with expectations. The necessity for that is further exacerbated by the recent market decline. OPEB was always something managed annually, but with rising costs for medical, the town needed to develop a long-range plan. Previous councils put a responsible plan in place, and we're operating based on that plan, as challenging as the costs may be. We remain on a responsible path to deal with a future liability, with obligations being roughly, right about here, 41% funded to date. This year's budget reflects funding at a level the council has followed since 2014. This is for our fund balance. Again, council has adopted a policy to have a fund balance of 10% of the general fund expenditures. This snapshot shows where we are currently and expected to be. Having a good fund balance is an indication of our fiscal strength and what gets us through tough times. It helps us with borrowing and covers losses. Putting money into the fund balance is good fiscal management. To be consistent with previous years, I'm recommending the use of $400,000 of fund balance to leave us with $12.6 million at the end of the year. This will keep us in line with policy. Again, fund balance this action is a strong and conservative fiscal approach to proper budgeting. And this is our road fund. So per charter, we have a dedicated levy for road funds. The proposed budget reflects a continued dedication to the road funds of in this case, total expenditures of $1.8 million. I'm going to leave that back up. So to summarize, I'm proposing a conservative budget that addresses increased costs by reducing department requests, foregoing a number of capital projects, and delaying some purchases. From a management standpoint, these reductions have negative implications to operations. However, as I said in my budget message, there are a lot of unknowns for our community over the next few months. I saw the need to make a number of difficult choices ahead of the upcoming year, and these decisions are reflected in the proposed budget. The main function of government is to provide services to town residents and businesses. As such, the proposed budget focuses on ensuring a high level of service delivery for a wide range of programming, providing something for everyone to benefit the whole. This proposal takes into account the impact COVID is having on our residents and businesses, while showing awareness that further reductions may hamper services and quality of life to the community at large. With that, I'll conclude my presentation for tonight. I look forward to input from the public and working with council as we continue through this process.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. I don't know how you're going to be doing this. If there's a way for you to, do you have them lined up in a queue for those who have signed up for public comment?
Yep, I'm going to just take that control as host.
And while we're doing that, I might as well do it for a third time. The number is still the same for the call-in, 929-205-6099. You will need to input a new meeting ID of 912-9378-4269.
Hold on. I have 52 participants in the queue, and I can't get to them. Bear with me 1 second. Okay, we're going to do this in order of people on the list. We're going to start with those on the computer first, and then we have a list, Cheryl, I believe, a list of people who want us to call them as well. So we'll go through the list. When I call your name, in some cases I have name, in other cases I have a phone number. If I call your name and you're wishing to speak, I will unmute you. I will give a 10 to 15 second delay, only because those individuals who are live streaming this, there is a delay in the recording. So there may be a moment, just for anyone listening, there may be a moment where there's some dead air, but we're aware of that. If you do not wish to speak because you were only calling in to listen, don't say anything, and after a period of time, I'll move on to the next one. And I will unmute you as we go. Please remember to give your name and address for the record. You'll have 10 minutes to speak. Mayor, correct me if I'm wrong, it's 10 minutes to speak, and then in the event, after everyone has gone once, they'll have an additional 10 minutes at that point.
Right.
That is correct.
As you go through the queue, if nobody is, signing up or raising hand or chiming in to speak anymore for the first time, then offer it for the second time for those who would wish to speak a second time.
Perfect. Let me get my timer ready. Okay. So I have Chris Fox is lined up, and I will unmute you and give you an opportunity to speak. Again, please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, everyone. My name is Chris Fox. I am not a resident, but I'm a teacher at Highcrest School. My address is 287 Whiting Lane, and it's West Hartford, Connecticut. And I will begin once all set. Mr. Evans?
Yep, you're good.
Okay. As Mr. Evans and Mr. Evans said before, we are living in a difficult time right now, and I just do want to thank, piggyback off them, The first responders, if you know any first responders, family members, thank you for their support. And as a teacher, especially thanks the curriculum specialist, admin, parent support at distance learning. We're still adjusting to this, and it's so far, I'm thinking it has a positive impact, even though it's a different time we're living in right now. Also, thank you, Mr. Mayor Rowell, Mr. Evans, for having anyone participate. So before I move on, I just have a couple seeds to plant. This is how I operate. Usually I'm pretty honest about what I do. I have research from talking to Mr. Emmett with emails through this coronavirus kind of thing, our principal, parents, and I went through the website just to ask some questions before I start talking, just to plant a seed as I talk. Maybe they can be answered at the end. I am speaking on behalf of myself and most stakeholders I interact with, most of all my fellow colleagues in the district and all parents that I serve at Highcrest School. The first thing I just want to address is I wasn't going to speak tonight. I was going to email a response, but I did find out that if we weren't speaking tonight, that they wouldn't be read on record. So I just wanted to clarify that. And if that's the case, then I think changes should be made in the future that if people do email their responses, they should be read out loud so they can be on record. Because it's a very difficult time for people to rearrange schedules, and especially with technology, just so everyone's input is heard. Even from the budget presentation from Mr. Evans, I did look online. I hope these numbers are right. Last year's budget was the $109 million, give or take, and then this year's is $111 million. So that's the $2 million increase or 1.8% increase. But I saw on the slides that Mr. Evans posted that we do need a $4 million increase to serve the town and the Board of Ed. So just keep that in your head as I'm talking. So this was an election year for Wethersfield, and many changes occurred with new members of the Board of Education and the Town Council. There's creative visions for the town and unique ideas to solve those problems. Many members ran on the campaign promise of working together for all members of the community. That being said, the Board of Education proposed 3.5% increase is for funding for schools, and I fully support Mr. Carey and Mr. Emmett's budget. This increase is sustainable increase, meaning these funds need to just run the schools normally at status quo, just to honor contractual obligations. This increase did not call for any more teachers, any more paraprofessionals, even paying them benefits, health insurance for these outstanding dedicated servers of the professionals of the community. Did not call for new buildings or even 2 portables at my school, Highcrest Elementary School. So the music teacher, who has brought a positive attitude, dynamic learning, teaching style to nearly 500 kids per week, and the occupational therapy and physical therapy support staff who address the needs of 30 students with varying disabilities and accommodations based on IEPs, they can have their own space to support their students. Well, those portables have been not in use for about 1.5 years now because they're not safe enough for students. In the early week, now the music teacher, he's on a stage sharing with the cafeteria, and the OTPT is now basically served their services in an oversized closet. In the early weeks of the budget process, it came to our attention that the town council, and correct me if I'm wrong if I'm not up to date on this, we had an increase of 0% from our education. And to be honest, as I'm trying to be honest as possible, a 0% increase is an insult to teachers and taxpayers. It's an insult to teachers because it feels like that what we do is not being rewarded for simple basic resources to keep our students in the learning process. We can't even get the proper amount of funding to sustain what we need and not have any extra. It's an insult, I believe, to taxpayers because a 0% increase means when you do not own up to your campaign promise to working together and negotiate with other people to pursue this increase. The 0% means there is no conversation and thought went into this decision. As a teacher, I'm asked several, I can't even count, how many times a year, what do you need? I do feel bad saying I need pencils, paper, colored pencils. By February, I do have to say, your child could use some pencils or crayons, but I can't provide anything else. Each parent, every parent that asks me what I need has the same question. Where do my taxes go? And I give the basic blanket statement. I just say, please go to your Board of Ed Education meetings and Town Council meetings and ask these questions because I don't have the answer for that. I'm sure everyone has heard the scenario. If we cut schools, we don't get the supplies and resources we need to fill our duty to prepare our students, in particular, to prepare them for the state assessments. The town is judged on these assessments, sadly, to attract people to live in Wethersfield. To be honest, we are very comparable to the surrounding towns with their test scores. Yes, there is work to improve on, but we are pretty much on the same standard as other towns surrounding us. If schools are desirable, property will be and people will move in. Making cuts will not achieve this goal. I grew up in a town where the budget was always a problem every single year. I taught in Hartford for 6 years before coming to Wethersfield, and their budget problems are far beyond this one. I do not want to see Wethersfield go into that direction. Here are my thoughts, and I'm open to any answers, comments, questions to help me understand the current budget crisis. Taxpayers basically fund the town budget. I live in West Hartford, and our taxes are just as much, if slightly more, than Wethersfield. I've been in Wethersfield for 5 years, going on 6 years, and each year I've been here, the Board of Ed had to make cuts to our education budget. I say, for my opinion, and I'm speaking on behalf of most people I've talked to, these cuts are now enough. We've saved the town millions of dollars, as Mr. Emmett said before, on the ABA program and the Strive programs, because those students, I think there's 20, I could be 15 to 20 kids. If we did not have those two creative and innovative plans, we've saved the district millions of dollars because those students would have to be outplaced and paid by the district. It's now time for the town council to come up with a plan to get more revenue into the town, or to make cuts on their side. I do want to say, Mr. Evans, I do like your idea of how the operations going forward, you do say they have to just be essential, not just anything, which is very good. But a 0% increase to me is irrational, insulting, and not equitable for our students and the staff. I'd like to commend the Board of Education and Mr. Emmett, Mr. Carey at this time or any time during the budget season, especially this unprecedented pandemic situation going on. The budget is always made to make sure schools and staff get the proper budget to sustain operations, as they always remain calm, collective, and work hard for the best education of our town's children. Children are our future, and giving them the proper education and support will impact many generations to come. I want to thank you for your time, and I hope there are more conversations about this. I have a great confidence in both the Board of Education and the Town Council that they will do what is right to meet these needs of all stakeholders in Wethersfield and take steps to solve this budget crisis so we don't revisit it year after year, because a 0% increase will not help any stakeholder at all. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, Mr. Fox, I missed it in the beginning. You are a teacher at what school is it again?
Third grade at Highcrest Elementary School.
Okay, teacher at third grade, Highcrest.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Mayor Rell, I'm receiving texts from people that are unable to hear the speakers. Town manager, is that an issue we're having?
Shouldn't be.
This is people that are on the call waiting for their turn to speak. They're not able to hear who's speaking presently.
Everyone is in, no one should be in a waiting room. And if you guys are hearing it, then they should be hearing it too.
Okay, thank you. I'll let them know.
They might, there's controls, what is it, star 6, 7? There's a control,
Star 6.
but I'm just looking through mine. I have everyone on who's muted, but they should be able to hear.
Okay, thank
Let me
you.
know if it changes or, after the next speaker, if it's still a problem.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Mayor, are we going in order of the people that signed up? I think there was a pre-sign-up list and then secondary.
Yes, I had asked how the town manager was going to do that. How is that queue going to work? Is it by those who have called in, or are you randomly, or are they lined up in a queue?
They're lined up in a queue based off of the order that the system is showing me, so I'm just kind of going right down the list. Now, if someone hangs up or it moves around, that might shift the order, so I'm doing my best to kind of watch it visually. But there's a lot of people on the line. So I'll do my best to try to keep with the system the way I have it coming up, but I apologize to anyone if it goes out of order.
Okay. Thank you.
Was there a list of people that signed up though? It's possible. It seems only fair to go through that list if they took the time, signed up, went through the procedure.
People were allowed to get on 3 different ways. They could call in, they could send us a number and we could call them, or they could email their comments that we would read into the record. I'm kind of taking them, and if I were to do it that way, then I'd be reading everyone into the record first, because the majority of, we got probably 25 of those before we got anyone on the list for the phone call. So, I mean, I could alternate, if that makes everyone happy.
I didn't know if somebody signed up to speak, and there was that order. It's a little different, of course, virtually now, but usually there's a sign-up list.
Yeah, I have 3, right, I mean, we're working with what we have. I have 3 people on a sign-up list. I could go through the people on the sign-up list. Why don't I do this? Why don't I alternate in between callers on the line and people who called in advance? Because I don't know if there's really a quote-unquote fair way to do it otherwise. So in which case, we'll do a call out. I want to do the first one on the list.
Okay.
Please state your name after the tone, and Google Voice will try to connect you.
Town of Wethersfield. That's fantastic. Okay, if
Google
not,
subscriber you have called is not available.
okay, we'll
Please
try,
leave a message
we'll
after
try
the
that one
tone.
again.
Want me to redial?
We'll come back to him.
Okay,
Okay, so do the next one on the list.
next one. Didn't work?
You might have to hit the send button again.
Mm-hmm.
Hello?
Hi, it's Gary Evans calling from the town of Wethersfield. If you're still interested in speaking, if you could state your name and address for the record, and you're actually on live.
Okay, thanks, Gary. Yes, my name is George Kelly. My address is 56 Pickering Lane, and I'm calling. I know you have a long list of people tonight, but I'm calling in support of the Wethersfield Library budget that was submitted as part of the town budget. I've been a user of the library for 45 years or so, starting when my wife and I went to the library for date night after getting a babysitter for our little baby. Then as the kids got older, they took advantage of the many resources there, and now my grandkids do that back when they were able to visit. I'm also currently proud to be a member of the board of the library, and I'm serving as the secretary. There are really 2 things I wanted to say. One is the library performs essential services, especially at times like this, doing as much as possible online, continuing to be an important resource for the town. In addition, as a board member, I've gotten to have an inside view of how the library is operated, and the library director, Brooke Berry, runs the library in a very efficient and effective manner, very sensitive to the needs of the community and tries to meet all those needs. The budget that the board has approved for the library is really as lean as we could make it. And I just ask that in order for the library to continue to provide these services, that that portion of the town budget be approved. Thanks.
Thank you. Yep, you can hang up.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly.
Okay. Next on the list is, unless Dolores or Mike O'Neill wanted to speak, I have Kelly Fisher. And she is unmuted, and if you wish to speak, please state your name and address for the record. And if you do not wish to speak, don't say anything or say no thank you, and I'll move on.
I think we
Okay.
have something from her.
All right, just in case, so we'll move on to the next one. So this will be a call to a resident.
I'm done here.
Oh, I dialed the wrong number. My fault.
Buttons don't always work.
Hello?
Hi, Gary Evans, Town Manager of Wethersfield. You're on live. If you wish to speak, please state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 10 minutes to speak.
Hi, thanks. Good evening. Martha Keneally, 12 Fairmont Street. I'm the Vice Chair of the Library Board, so I'll start by speaking tonight in favor of the proposed library budget unanimously approved by our board. Our Library Director, Brooke Berry, and her team have worked tirelessly to put together a fiscally responsible budget that would allow us to maintain our current level of services. As you're aware, well, there's an increase of approximately $37,000 that represents a rise in healthcare and pension costs, which the Library Board has no ability to cut. The rest of the budget, which the Library Board does control, is actually about $75 less than last year. While we recognize that the current crisis is putting an incredible strain on our community, we also know there are few institutions as valuable as a library during hard times. As we work through and emerge from this crisis, data shows that demand for library resources will soar, especially those related to education, employment, and internet use. At this time of year, I usually remind council that the library serves every member of our community, from infants to seniors, and the only town department open for more hours than the library are the police and fire departments. I don't want that to be overlooked just because our doors are currently closed to the public. Even while we can't welcome you into our physical space, we remain open online 24 hours a day, and use of these resources by children and adults alike have surged. Right at this moment, your Wethersfield Library card enables you to visit our website to access movies, books, magazines through our databases like Hoopla and Overdrive. Thousands of classes to help you develop technology and business skills are available through lynda.com. 70 different language learning programs via Mango Languages, comprehensive business and economic data through our Morningstar database, and so much more. Add to this the hundreds of people who are participating in virtual story times, online programs via Zoom, and receiving direct help from our library staff. In relaying this, I want to take a moment to recognize and thank our librarians who have been incredibly resourceful in the ways they've continued to serve our community during this difficult time. As we reopen in the coming months, we'll be even more dependent on their expertise as we work our way through the crisis, and therefore I urge the council to vote in favor of the library board's budget. I also want to take time to share my support for the town and school budgets. Like the library board, the increases presented by the town and schools are due to the rising cost of items such as healthcare, pension, debt services, garbage collection. Otherwise, what is being presented also represents maintaining or cutting services. Drastic cuts to town programs such as parks and recreation, social and youth services, the police and fire department, and maintaining our infrastructure will be detrimental to our community and take years to recover from, if ever. As I think of the value we get from investing in our schools, I think back to the commitment our community made to education when we overwhelmingly voted to support the renovation of our high school in 2012. This is a burden we accepted because we knew that it was the right thing to do to support our children and to promote the reputation of our schools and community. It's worth noting that our current senior class is the first to have the benefit of 4 years in the renovated high school. There's a lot of reasons I'm proud of this group, but I really marvel when I look over their class Instagram page and see where they're heading to college and what they're going to study, especially the number of kids that plan to study the sciences. As I think back to when we were advocating in favor of the high school, one of the major issues we had was the threat to our accreditation because of the antiquated and dangerous conditions of our science labs. In a few weeks, dozens of members of the class of 2020 will graduate from WHS with plans to study chemistry, biology, nursing, mechanical engineering, health sciences, biomedical engineering, including my own daughter who will be studying aerospace engineering. They're ready to take on these big challenges because our community recognized the importance of investing in their education. As a parent, I'm grateful my daughter had this opportunity, but as a community member and taxpayer, I also recognize the value of my home will continue to depend on the reputation of our schools. It was worth it in 2012, and it's worth it today, so I urge you to support the town manager's proposed budget. Thanks very much for your time and all the work you're putting into the process, and have a good rest of the evening. Thanks.
Thank you, Martha. I appreciate that.
Okay. I have one labeled iPhone. I'm not sure how to designate that person otherwise. But whoever's listed as iPhone, you're unmuted. I'll just give you a few seconds in case there's a delay. And we ask you to share your name and address, please, before speaking, and you'll have 10 minutes to speak. Okay, move on to the next phone number, 860-212-7417. I am unmuting you, and again, if you can give us your name and address, and if you wish to speak, and you'll have 10 minutes to speak. Otherwise, please let me know, and I'll move on to the next one.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, council members. My name is Dorothy DeVake, 22 Harmon Court. My phone number is 860-212-7417. I'd like to ask the council to support the proposed Board of Ed budget and town budget. A 0% budget increase or anything less than what was put forth would be detrimental to our town and the resources that are critical now more than ever. Our schools are facing more uncertainty and challenges in these unprecedented times. We need to make sure our educators and our children have the resources needed to navigate the coming months. To make any cuts to these resources would be repugnant. Vote to approve the Board of Ed budget set forth by our superintendent. Our schools, library, and community services are more important than ever before. Don't let us down. Now is the time to support our town's services and our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dorothy.
All right. If you want to try,
That color again?
yeah, actually, it's a different number. I'll see where the problem is. Hold on. You can use.
Instead?
Yeah, that one.
Okay.
Good evening, this is Town Manager and the Town Council. You're live for the public hearing. If you'd like to speak, please give your name and address for the record, and you'll have 10 minutes to speak.
Thank you. This is Doreen Ciarcia, 194 Garden Street. I am the library board chair, and I'm speaking in support of the library's budget for the 2020-2021 year. The proposed increase is 1.85%, which is about $37,000, and all of it, unfortunately, is due to health insurance, workers' comp, and pension increases. It's important to note that the core library services budget has remained flat. This is the time I would normally talk about us having 500 patrons a day and over 900 items loaned out per day, but unfortunately, in the situation we find ourselves, we are not a physical gathering space at this moment, but rather an online community gathering place, which is an entirely different, something very different than what we've been used to as a whole. However, the work of the library hasn't stopped. The staff answer reference questions via phone and online. They promote the census with our other partners. They process online library card requests, and dozens have been processed over the last 7 weeks. So the work of the staff does not stop. And in addition to that, they conduct many online classes to continue the participation with the community and engage our residents. Some recent examples of the online classes that they have conducted, Cut the Cord, which was one I personally attended, looking at how to cease standard cable operations and do something else. And 22 people participated in that last week. We recently started bedtime story time for children. I looked, and last week those particular stories had 1,500 views by residents and others alike. We have additional programs such as Baby Rhyme Time, Earth Day programming, and we'll be starting in May one-on-one tech help, an online book discussion club, as well as online book talks. In addition, this summer we'll be doing the summer reading program, which will also, a lot of it, be virtually, in fact, all of it online. So the work of the library doesn't stop with the temporary loss of the physical building. In addition, our budget funds online resources and databases that are used by the community, and we've seen a rather dramatic uptick in the usage of those databases. One example, lynda.com, which has over 3,000 training courses from web design through job skills, had a 75% increase in logins in April versus in March. Some of our other databases, Hoopla and Overdrive, which focus on ebooks and audiobooks, had increases of 14% and 19% respectively in April versus March. So the funding for those is critical to continue with the community engagement, as well as continue for the library to continue to be a resource for our residents in obviously what is a very difficult time. And probably the biggest thing for the library as we go into this budget season is we're preparing for our reopening. Library usage is greatest when unemployment is high. And certainly, we all know the unemployment rate right now is extremely high. So we expect usage of the library's online resources, and then again, the physical space when that is available, obviously within the new social distancing guidelines. So in conclusion, this is a very smart budget. Brooke Berry, as you've heard from George Kelly and Martha Keneally, has done a tremendous job with giving services and yet being very fiscally responsible. And I certainly support the proposed increase that she has made. So I thank you for your time and your support of the library.
Thank you, Doreen. We appreciate you coming tonight. You always do a good job presenting on behalf of the library year after year. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Gary, were you going to go to some of those that have emailed in, or still people online or on the phone line?
Yeah, I think what we'll do is we'll start to integrate, there aren't as many, but we'll start to integrate some of the written as well. I do want to be cognizant of time, only because it looks like there are a lot of phone numbers on here compared, but I also want to give the opportunity for those who write in to be heard in case they're also watching as well. Well,
I think everybody who's submitted to the record, for the record, should be heard.
Absolutely. Some of the people are on the line, other people may have, like I said, sent them in, so it'll be on the record. So we're going to kind of take turns here. I have Cheryl going first for first reading.
Okay, this was submitted by Robert and Lucille St. Germain of 161 Valley View Drive.
Cheryl, hang on one second. Can you guys hear her?
It's a little muted.
It's very faint. Yeah, no, you're going to have to probably get closer. You're going to have to come over a microphone. I'll move over so we're 6 feet.
one, you mean?
Yeah, because it's got to be picked up on this.
Testing, is this better?
They're saying no.
Testing, is this better?
A little bit better.
So
A little bit?
so this mic has to.
I can hear.
Okay, go ahead. Just project.
Okay, got it. Robert and Lucille St. Germain, 161 Valley View Drive. Dear Town Council members, these are trying times for all of us. We hope that you and all those that you love are safe and well. There will be budget planning discussions occurring very soon. Since we are retirees living on a fixed budget, we would like to give you our opinion. We feel that the Board of Education proposed budget of a 3.5% increase will just keep up with contractual increases and include minor programs or incentives at all. Any decrease in their proposal will put our educational system in jeopardy. We are blessed with creative teachers who have risen to the current challenge of distance learning. They need to be able to continue to do their fine work when this current crisis has ended. We recognize that inventive programming, clubs, music, art, and sports give students the opportunity to engage in activities which might ignite a spark in them for their future endeavors. The Board of Education needs to have the funding necessary to retain these programs. Young families are the lifeblood of their communities. They are also a group who buy houses from us and our fellow retirees. We are concerned that if our educational system is not allowed to keep pace with our surrounding towns, that families will look elsewhere for their homes. Please look to the future when you make your budget decisions. Do not be short-sighted and place our educational system in a hole from which recovery will take years. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you for reading that, Cheryl.
And the next phone number is 860-573-0176. I'm going to unmute you. If you wish to speak, please do so.
Hi.
State your name and address for the record, and you'll have 10 minutes.
Okay, hi, this is Shannon McNeese. I live at 49 Harvest Hill in Wethersfield. I just need to get my little piece ready. Okay. Good evening, council members. I am calling in because I am concerned about possible reductions to the budget in the areas of education, parks and rec, and the public library. All of these services help to make Wethersfield a town that I want to live in and that I want my family to live in. The education budget proposed is already a maintenance budget. I teach in West Hartford, and I completely empathize with teacher contracts increasing each year and the burden it puts on taxpayers. But it is already a negotiated deal, and we want to maintain the education system that we have. The public library is the heart of our community, serving many critical roles. Even if many people are unaware of the roles that it serves, they should become more educated about all of the people who rely on the services of the public library. And finally, our Parks and Rec is vital to a family-oriented town, and my family also relies on the Park and Rec services during the summer. And thank you very much for taking my comments tonight.
Thank you, Shannon.
Okay. So let's do another phone call, 860-803-7843. I'll unmute your mic, and if you wish to speak, please do so by begin by stating your name and address, and you'll have 10 minutes to speak. Next on the list,
1 second, Gary. Just in case anybody is tuned in or watching either on YouTube or on TV, should we do one more new ID number, I think?
Yep.
Just in case we're tuning in late. The number is still the same, 929-205-6099. The new meeting ID number, 912-9378-4269. Thanks, Gary.
Thank you, Mayor. Next number, 860-985-3515. Again, if you wish to speak, I'll unmute you, name and address. You'll have 10 minutes. If you don't wish to speak, you can just let me know and I can pass.
Hi, this is Lauren Bonfiglio, 33 Old Post Road. I just wanted to take a quick second to let everyone know that I support the Board of Education, Town of Wethersfield, and Public Library budget. I am a special education teacher at Silas-Dean Middle School. I also have 3 children who are students at Highcrest, Silas-Dean Middle School, and Wethersfield High School. Without the proposed budget, our schools will have to make a considerable amount of cuts. As a special education teacher at Silas-Dean Middle School, our caseloads are already higher than average. It is already difficult to meet the needs of so many different kids with different learning profiles. Without the continued staffing, which includes our paraprofessionals, our kids will not meet with success. It is important that we continue to provide our students with the necessary educational and mental health assistance that they need and deserve. In order for our students to be successful, it is critical that our schools continue to be funded. I fully support Mr. Emmett and Mr. Evans' proposed budget. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Lauren.
You're welcome.
Okay, do a quick read. This next write-in is from Kate Sala, 160 Carriage Hill Drive. Hi, my name is Kate Sala, and I currently have a kindergartner at Highcrest Elementary, and I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old who will also go through the public school system. Both my husband and I are products of the Wethersfield school system and are lifelong residents. We are strongly in favor of you supporting the proposed budget without any cuts. Education is critical in today's society, and receiving a well-rounded education is so important. Some of our buildings need so much work to even maintain standards. Having continued access to art, PE, music, and library will only enhance our children's lives. Additionally, being able to support staff push into the general education classrooms is also very important. Given the current situation with distance learning, there will most likely be an increased demand for guidance counselors, social workers, school psychologists, and other staff who can help students through the social and emotional deficits that are and will continue to arise once students are back in their physical school environment. There may be a need for increased S&E programs too. My husband and I love Wethersfield and believe wholeheartedly in the effectiveness of our public school system. We urge you to approve the budget. Respectfully, Kate and Anthony Sala, 160 Carriage Hill Drive. Please hold.
Hello? Hello?
Didn't really expect people to call in that phone number. Hold on one moment.
Google Voice.
We'll get back to the person who called back in a moment. Hopefully I was able to put them on mute. Nope, apparently I have.
No, you weren't.
Hold on one moment, please.
Do you want me to answer it?
Let's see if we can. Okay, go ahead. Good afternoon, good evening, this is the town of Wethersfield.
Who is this?
This is the town manager, you're on live, or are you looking to leave a comment to the public hearing?
Live virtual meetings. So
Oh, it was a long number,
that
thank you.
the pandemic is over sooner than later, please, for a number of reasons.
That must have been the number that we called earlier, calling back, so. The next phone number on the list here is 860-818-0000. 7727. Again, if you're interested in speaking, please provide your name and address. You'll have 10 minutes to speak. If you're not interested, please let me know, and I'll move on to the next caller. Okay. The next phone number is 860-878-4688. Again, you'll have 10 minutes to speak. Please give us your name and address.
Hello?
Yes, you're on live.
You hear me? Yep, this is Claudio Boy at 689 Highland Street. I sent in an email, and I wasn't sure if it was going to be read. So should I just read my email?
Yep, that's fine.
Or should I just, is that okay?
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
that will work. Please.
Okay.
Nobody wants to hear me talk anymore.
Okay, this is on the town of Wethersfield, Connecticut proposed budget increase. In these unique and trying times, I'm very disappointed in the town manager for even considering a budget increase at this time, which will raise taxes. As his neighbors and fellow taxpayers in the town of Wethersfield continue to struggle with the ever-heightening reality of the loss of jobs, loss of health care, and the unknown of how they will put food on their tables, our town council needs to show its leadership and support the overall good of its community and not inflict more burden on its citizens. Moving forward with municipal business as usual is shameful and shows a lack of compassion for the taxpayers who at this time are in dire straits. There should be no increase to the budget. Instead, cuts need to be made for our budget to be balanced. Since the economy, including the town of Wethersfield, has been brought to a halt, additional dollars are inevitably available buried within the budget. It is your job as a town council to find it. Let's put our priorities, the health and welfare of the people in the town of Wethersfield, in place for a sustainable future. I'd just like to remind the council that when we voted in November, there was a change, and I think part of the change was addressing the situation that we have. This isn't normal times. This is a time that is an emergency situation, and drastic measures have to be taken. Because if we do not, we will continue the loss of people in town, and we can say all that we want to say about, having a great community, but if at the end of the day you don't have people to pay the bills, you'll end up in a situation which we are, like in the state of Connecticut, which probably means that we're going to have to go to increased borrowing and bonds are going to go down. I would think a much smarter thing is if we do have a amount of money that we have on reserve, it would be, and I'm totally, don't think I'm against education. I mean, I'm for education. I had my master's degree in physics, so I'm all for education, but I've done it all through the private. I've heard the teachers talk about, 0%. Well, and when they go to other schools, a lot of these schools, the teachers are doing it. They don't nearly have the same salary as in a municipality. Take the parochial schools. They do it for the love of the job and for showing for their education. So I would say that if we need to do something, take it from the reserves to balance the budget, because it's not a normal time that we're in right now. That's all I'd like to say. Thank you and have a nice night.
Thank you, Mr. Roria. Mr. Town Manager, do we have his letter into the record?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I heard Dolores say yes. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. The next person on the list is listed as B, as in B as in boy, E-E. B, I will unmute you, and if you wish to speak, you'll have 10 minutes. Please start with your name and address. And just reminding everyone that there might be a 10-second delay for those people live streaming, so I'm just allowing for dead air, just in case.
We can go on to the next one.
Yep. next one is 860-721-6000. 860-721. Oh, hold on one second. My screen shifted. Now I have to go find the number. Either they hung up, the entire screen shifted, so all the numbers shifted. Yeah, so I'll have Dolores, while I'm looking for that number, I'll have her read one into the record, and I think that person has disconnected, but Dolores, if you wouldn't mind reading one into the record.
This is from Colin and Carrie Hill, 117 Randy Lane. Dear Town Council representatives, as a follow-up to an email of you on March 1st, we would like to reiterate our position regarding the Board of Education budget. As we previously suggested, the budget for our schools and teachers should be reviewed to be investment in Wethersfield. Every resident stands to benefit from our town being an attractive place to live. The investment is self-reinforcing, which creates demand from local businesses and commercial property owners and ultimately drives tax revenue. It is even more imperative to approve a modest increase to the Board of Education now as we all work through the impacts of shelter in place and interrupted social interaction. We will be relying on care that our teachers and support staff provide from September. Students will have been away from the classroom for almost 6 months and certainly will need more individual attention and compassion as they make transition back to a formal school setting. Surely there are many needs to keep Wethersfield a desirable place to live, but investment in our school needs to be top of the list. Their previous email was, please vote in favor of the modestly increased Board of Education budget proposed by Superintendent Michael Emmett of 3.66%. The recommended increase matches increased costs just to maintain our current staffing and programs. The quality of our schools and the faculty staff are critical to keeping families and attracting new ones to our town. It is this draw that increases demand for homes and improves property values. Higher property values generate more economic activity, spending new businesses, higher shopping center, and office rents, which all work together to boost future tax revenue. Investing in our schools is an investment in improving Wethersfield for all towns and residents.
So, could you just repeat the first and last name of the two residents, please?
It's Colin and Carrie Hill, 1617 Randy Lane.
Thank you.
Okay. Next phone number is 860-948-0803. Again, you'll have 10 minutes. Please start with your name and address. If you're not interested in speaking, please let me know or say nothing and we'll move on to the next.
Hi, my name is Mary Kay Jensen. I'm at 23 Quail Hill. I am just calling in to ask that the Board of Ed budget be fully funded, the library budget as well. 0% increase is unacceptable. The schools is going to be all hands on deck next year. They need to be fully funded. Social workers, teachers, everybody is going to need support, and most of all the students. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Kay.
Okay, the next phone number is area code 860-721-0713.
Hello?
Yes, hi, you're live for public comments for the public hearing?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep. It sounds like you might have the TV streaming in the background. You might want to mute it, otherwise you're going to get background noise.
Yep, let me mute that for you. Okay. Hi, yes, my name is Andrea Iglico. I live at 162 Clovercrest Road. I'm here to request that the funds allocated over a year ago to repair the portable classrooms at Highcrest be used to fix the portables and not used on other town list items. I know all items on the list are important, but I've had kids at Highcrest for 12 years now, and I'm all too familiar with the tight quarters that 450 plus kids and staff are working in. This already tight situation was made worse 2 years ago when we lost the use of our portable units due to water damage, animal damage, and a poorly done roof repair. Our music classes are currently taking place in the small space on the stage. The library has been reduced to half of its size, and the computer lab has been relocated there to make space for offices. The band and orchestra kids are practicing in the closet behind the caf where we used to store tables and chairs. I've gotten more than 55 Wethersfield residents to sign a petition to use the previously allocated funds to repair or replace the Highcrest portable units. I'm sure I could get many more signatures if needed, but I think the 55 signatures clearly expresses the urgency of the situation. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, Ms. Glico. Appreciate that.
Get many more signatures if needed, but I think the 55 signatures...
I'll help you out with a mute. Okay, next letter, oh, actually, Cheryl gets to go next on the reading.
Colleen Bolingbrook, no address stated. I'm writing today to ask all members of the Town Council to support the proposed budget of education, Board of Education budget with the 3.5% increase. Please do not cut their budget. I have a kindergartner at Highcrest, and during my time doing distance learning with her over the last few weeks, I have realized the true value of our schools and educators. I know more than ever that our teachers deserve much more than they are making, and that our schools are some of the most important parts of our community. Please support their proposed budget with the 3.5% increase. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Next phone call is from 860-422-5934. Please state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 10 minutes. Eight 860-422-5934. Okay. Next phone number is 860-944-2746.
Hello?
Yes, hi, you're on live. If you could state your name and address for the phone number, and we'll put 10 minutes on the clock.
Hi, this is Samantha Griffin. I live at 25 T Lane. And I just wanted to state my support for the school budget as proposed. I think a 0% increase cannot happen. Mr. Fox said so nicely earlier, you know, here we are, we have all these teachers, they're putting their heart and soul into our kids, and we can't say to them, hey, guess what? Even though you've done all this stuff for them while we're all distance learning, you may not have a job when you come back next year because we can't fund that. And I don't think it's right or fair, and I think we need to fund this budget so that all of our kids have exactly what they need next year, as well as our teachers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Griffin.
Okay, next phone number is 860-817-6982. Go ahead, caller.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, this is Michelle DePaula. I'm at 20 Settler Circle in Wethersfield, Connecticut. I'm calling in support of the education system. I don't want to say support for the increase or the one that is proposed. I do think we can do more. I would like to raise the question of what has the town council done to look to save money. I know there was, Gary had mentioned about looking into different providers for the healthcare system, and I would love to see more actions taken like that to provide the same services, maybe potentially cheaper costs. What I'm not understanding is we're in this emergent situation, and while it is fiscally responsible to put 8 to 10% away for that, I'm not sure what else would constitute an emergency situation, unlike this current upcoming year of dealing with the COVID. So I do think that maybe dropping down to that 8% for this fiscal year might be an option. I'm not really sure what else would fit that constitution of emergency fund. We have asked our teachers on last year's budget to come up with an entire learning online plan for the students with no change in their budget, and it was a heroic effort at best. They were able to do a lot with a little, and I think that we should be able to give them more funding to be able to do that this next year with all of the unknowns. So again, I support the funding allocated to the education system, but I do think we should do more for them. Thank you.
Thank you for calling in, Ms. Paula.
Okay, next caller is 860-563-6923. 860-563-6923.
Hello, Gary. This is Bob Young. Do you hear me?
Did I sound okay?
Oh, hold on, Mr. Young. Okay, Mr. Young, are you still there?
I'm still here.
Okay. Name and address for the record, and you'll have 10 minutes.
Thank you. First of all, I've reviewed your budget. I'm not satisfied at all with the manager's budget. I think 3.7% increase is very, very high. You know, all we need to do is look at the newspapers. And, you know, we see that, you know, Connecticut stands to lose billions of dollars in taxes. And right now, taxes are not coming in to the state of Connecticut. We're seeing product that's not even selling anymore, such as gas. Well, I know it's selling, but it's not selling in the way that it had been selling, like gasoline and diesel fuels. And that's all because of the slowing down of our economy due to this illness that we have out there, the virus. But the fact remains, as people start to come back, to go back to normal, I don't think we're really going to be picking up. And I think we're going to be looking at some ugly times. And I really believe that our town council and our budget should reflect what's going on out there in the world. Now, I recall back during 2008, 2009, the town took barely a cut. But the citizens got hammered badly. And from there on, we kept seeing up in taxes. And here we are today, looking at, what, $265 for the average house? You know, as I've told you in the past, and you know I do come and talk to you on a regular basis, my taxes last year went up $592. And that was because Mr. Forrest said my taxes were only going to go up $7. But they went up $592. Now you're looking at another $265 minimum. So I don't understand what in the world's going on here, but we need to look at our economy and we need to form our budget to the economy, and that is to reduce our costs. Now, your grand list, Mr. Manager, indicates on page number 2, intro-2, on that page, you say that you had an increase of 0.7%. Yet over on page C42, it indicates and it shows your combined grand list increasing by 0.19. What is the correct number? Maybe you can answer that later. But in the meantime, and I know you spoke a little bit about our breakdown of the grand list. Grand list on page 42 says it went up 0.19. Yet when you look at the aggregate of what makes it up, and then you compare it to the year before, I think you need to compare it to the year before. The year before, the same page, I don't know what number it was, but I have it in front of me as a copy. It showed that the difference, we went up back then $76.5 million for real estate. That was 3.86% increase last year. This year, we went down $6,751,000 down. That's 0.33 negative. This is a signal, and should be a signal to our town council members of where we're heading. We're not heading for bigger and better times. I think we're heading for lesser times. And I think you need, or I would urge you, to look at these numbers and try to figure out what the real number should be. But 3.67, 3.7%, whatever that is nowhere near what it should be. It should be way back at -5. And then if you look at this year on the same grand list, your personal property went up 10.6, whereas last year it went up 2.7. So we had a good bump this year for that. But otherwise, personal property, what was the only thing that brought you up? The real estate. Everybody in town has real estate. We own a little house somewhere in town. And if the price went down on total $6.7 million, which equals a negative of 0.33%, when last year was up 3.8%. I think we have some serious issues here that we need to address. And I don't think your budget that you presented has done that. I think you need to go back and look at these costs. Now, I understand real estate went down 0.33%, and the real estate consists of residential homes, and it represents businesses. We don't know what the breakdown is, but the fact remains, if businesses were doing okay, like your narrative says, homes really took a beating in price. And all these folks that want to increase taxes, you're not just increasing taxes to what you're seeing. Next year, it's going to be worse, and it's going to be bigger. And, we just cannot continue doing this, continuing to pay more and more, and use little as possible, and we don't use as much. I think the town needs to find better ways. Now, I also spoke with you last year about this thing called the circuit breaker and the rentals rebate.
Mr. Young, Mr. Young, can you just speak up a little bit louder?
I'm sorry.
Perfect. Thank you.
Last year, you and I spoke about the circuit breaker and the renter's rebate. I don't know where you have that in here, unless you call it town elderly tax relief and state elderly tax relief, but that doesn't have anything to do with renter's rebate. So maybe you and I can have a conversation and we try to figure out and you can tell me where it is. Now, the school. Tonight I didn't get on the system until 7:35 today, because I kept trying to get on. And I believe, I'm not sure, but I think the superintendent was just wrapping up his discussion on the schools. And so I totally missed it. But again, that doesn't mean I don't know what's going on, because I've been watching the school system for a long time. And, it wasn't no more than a couple of weeks ago that our Board of Education, on a Friday special meeting, voted to buy 2,000 more Chromebooks because our students need them. And I'm sure that our students do need them for the right purpose. And I'm wondering if that right purpose is not to take it home and play with it, but to use it as a tool to learn. And in order to do that, I think right now they're using those computers for distant learning. And I really believe that this would be a new way of saving taxpayer dollars. Millions and millions of dollars we could save if we utilize those computers. Don't forget, it's the Board of Education that pushed technology on us. Go to their meetings. You see them showing movies of what the children are doing, making movies and cartoons and all this other kind of stuff, which means they're really utilizing technology in teaching. And these youngsters are understanding how it works. And I believe that's the next step for teaching. I think the next step for teaching is to look at our high school students, especially those that are getting ready to graduate, and put them on a distant learning program for the entire year. And then we could find a teacher to run those classes that we need, who are like national proclaimed teachers of high-level distinction, and buy that movie that teaches every class that those 12th graders would need, and let them sit home and do their classes at home. We would save a lot of money. We could do that with our juniors as well, because they need to get ready for college. And college now is going to be distant learning. So we may as well start right now changing the whole atmosphere of our school. Maybe we could end up closing down a few schools by doing distant learning. Maybe keep the youngest ones, the first, second, third graders, in schools somewhere. But the fact is, we should be able to utilize this technology in the way of reducing our costs for running the school. Instead of having 300 school teachers, we would have some kind of a presentations by some nationally proclaimed teacher or teachers.
Okay, Mr. Young.
And our students would really be picking up some great information and doing fantastic. Yes,
We appreciate your comments. I did hear the 10-minute timer go off. I believe there is a second opportunity for 10 minutes after everybody's wrapped up their first round.
and I'll come back. Thank you.
I'm sure you will. We do appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Evans.
Yep. The next one.
Next line up.
Yep.
Caller, write-in. Who do we have?
Let's do a write-in for.
You might have to mute Mr. Young as well.
Yep. And I apologize if I get the name incorrect. Colleen Bolingbroke.
No, I just read that.
Oh, I lied.
Next week.
A different Colleen. Colleen Kruzowicz, 41 Haystack Road. As a resident of Wethersfield for 30-plus years, I went through the school system, and now my children are in elementary school here. As a town, we want to remain a desirable town for folks to move into, and with our high taxes, we are driving people away. We need to keep our schools competitive, which is a big draw when looking to plant roots. If we don't invest in them, we will lose important programs that greatly benefit the children of this town. I believe we need to increase the education budget in order to continue to fulfill the needs of the students in town and to offer a well-rounded education rather than cutting programs. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary.
Okay. Next caller is, hold on, 257-7757. You've been unmuted. If you can give your name and address, and you'll have 10 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Bob Woodward. I live at 456 Middletown Avenue, and I have lived here for 42 years. I find this budget terrifying and frightening. I am calling as a retired person whose total increase in income this year was $9 a month on my Social Security. My pension gave me nothing extra. And that has already been spent to pay my supplement to my Medicare. So at this point, I'm in negative numbers if the taxes go up. And I look at the town and I say, there are people here who are on challenged income. There are people who have retired. There are people on below the poverty line. There are people with massive medical bills. And right now, how many thousands of Wethersfield residents are unemployed? If you divide the 400,000 plus by the 169 towns, take your guess. And how many of us can afford 3.5 or 3.6 or 3.1? We can't. I was thrilled last year when the mill rate went down a smidgen, because it has concerned me for several years that once we passed 40, and I learned when the town passed 40, there's only about a dozen or so towns and cities in the state over 40, but we seem to just keep going up almost like a runaway train. Where are we headed? Are we headed to Hartford at 70 mills, New Britain at 50? And even Mayor Stewart has said, we can't raise the taxes this year. Are we headed to Waterbury? Are we headed to East Hartford, which despite Pratt and Whitney has significant taxes? Or Torrington, which can't keep their streets paved, friends tell me. Are we headed to Simsbury? Sounds like a nice town, but I can't afford to live there. And the same with West Hartford, which is over 40 mills. West Hartford did something interesting, though. They had about the same proposed increase. They brought it down to a negative 0.14 decrease, knowing what is going on. These are challenging times. I also look at the grand list. Where did the apartments around the corner from me at Main and at Silas Dean and Mill Street come into play to lower our taxes? Where will the new medical building being built where Puritan Furniture was come into play to lower our taxes? Where will the restaurant that my neighborhood opposed vehemently up at 24 Maple Street, and we lost that to Historic District and Planning and Zoning, where will that come into play and lower our taxes? Some of these aren't built yet, but they were there. And why do we have so many empty storefronts along Silas Dean and the old nursing home on Jordan Lane? And whose responsibility is it to get some people in there so that maybe we get more taxes for that and lower the mill rate burden on the rest of us? One of the things that I see major companies doing, and I'm sure none of you will like this, but I see major companies, including Pratt & Whitney, beginning to cut executive salaries. What if we started to cut the top salaries in the town by 1, 2, 3, 4%? They'd still be decent salaries, but it might take some of the mill rate burden off of us. It just might. The firehouse in District 1 needs a new roof. I went by there. I was shocked to find out that's a wood roof, and apparently Historic District Commission has said it has to continue that way. If that's going to cost us more than a regular roof, then Historic District Commission should pay the difference out of their budget. I live in the tail end of Historic District Commission, and many of us would like to leave it. We're fed up with them. But they should not be charging more taxes to the town for a public building that serves more than the Historic District Commission. The last thought I want to leave you with is something that my parents certainly passed on to me because they lived through the Great Depression in the 1930s. And I'm going to leave you with this thought, not for this year, but as Bob Young said, for the next few years. It sounds like the state's going to be in a mess. We need to live within our means. And I know everyone that's presented tonight pictures that in our means. But where are the means for the people paying the taxes? You need to keep the tax rate within the means of all of us. I had one man tell me today, my son, who's lived in Wethersfield for a long time, wants to get out of the town. He said, no wonder the taxes keep going up too much. Stay within your means, and the important thing may not be the budget, but how we take care of each other in the next few years down the line. I wish you, Town Council, courage and wisdom in the decisions that you have to make. But please remember that wherever this mill rate goes, it's going to impact every single one of us, and some have the ability to pay, and for some, it's going to be a challenge. Thank you for listening, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Woodward. I appreciate that.
Okay, next caller is want to make sure I have the right order here. 8282. Okay. Next caller is area code 860-882-8243. Please state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 10 minutes.
Yes, my name is Amy Blanco. I live at 81 Perry Drive. We've heard a lot of comments in support of the proposed education budget tonight, a lot of which I fully agree with and am in support of. So in the interest of time here, I know there's a lot of people on the line and there's a lot more behind me. Just want to mention that I am in support of the proposed education budget for the upcoming year. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Dolores, if you would read the next.
Sure. Diane Murphy, 63 Schoolhouse Crossing. I implore you in these uncertain times to remember the essential role schools play in the safety, security, and well-being of our children and our community for a whole. Flat funding of the Wethersfield Public Schools does not account for staff raises and other areas with standard increases in annual costs. If the council flat funds our public schools, there will be cuts to staffing and extracurricular activities. At this time, when our children have lost so much opportunities for building these critical relationships and skills that only can be learned when working as a team, a club, or a group centered and focused on a singular goal, becomes so much more important. Our children need music and band clubs, journalism clubs, extracurricular and competitive sports, and theater. We clearly cannot afford to lose staff at a time when social distancing would be nearly impossible in classrooms that become more crowded due to staff layouts. Support our public schools by voting for the budget proposed by the superintendent. Our students need their school communities. Our classrooms need to reopen with all of our staff. Schools are the center where kids develop relationships, friendships, learn lasting skills, where families hang out and enjoy music, theater, and sports together with their neighborhoods. Now is the time to invest in our schools. Thank you for the opportunity to submit my comments. Diane Murphy.
Thank you, Dolores.
Yep.
On the line or previously? Okay. All right. Next phone number is 860-212-6878. Please state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 10 minutes. Eight 860-212-6878. Okay. Next caller is 860-836-5561. And here we go, sorry, 860-836-5561.
Hi, this is Dion Kelly at 147 Surrey Drive. Can you hear me?
Yep, you're all set to go.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to say that I am in support of the education budget and the library budget, and I also don't wish to have taxes raised. And that's it.
Okay.
I think a lot of people have said a lot of the things already, so. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next caller. Next caller is area code 860-594-8531.
Hi, this is Melissa Sutton. I live at 8 Deer Ledge Lane. I would like to express my support for the recommended Board of Education, Town and Library budget increases In this challenging time, our children and the entire community will need support and resources more now than ever. Cuts to education and to town services will create long-term negative consequences for our children and for our entire town. Thank you.
Thank you.
Give me 1 second. Okay. Next caller is 860-297-1220. Eight 860-297-1220. Yes, you're on. Please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, can you hear us?
Hello?
Hi, yes, you're on for the Town of Wethersfield public hearing?
Yep. Okay, I just want Rebecca Colello, 246 Two Rod Highway. And I just wanted to say, as a Wethersfield resident and a mother in this town, I cannot stress enough how important it is that we do not cut our education budget. We need our teachers and support staff. Our schools are run down and completely behind the times with school security. For what we pay in taxes in this town, and look at surrounding towns around us, that we as residents pay, the other towns and schools surpass us by having newer buildings and better school security. I couldn't agree more with everything Chris Fox of Highcrest Elementary School previously said. We need to support the education budget and our teachers to support the children within this town. To take any more away from our education budget would be a complete disservice to the taxpayers of this town. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cole. Next one, please.
Yep. Okay, hold on. Okay, we'll have Cheryl read the next one.
Steve Randall, 35 Beverly Road. Hello. Rather than speak for the 2 10-minute periods permitted by code at the budget hearing, I am sending this email to all of you to save us time. You should be able to read and digest my thoughts in less than 20 minutes. I am opposed to any 2020/2021 budget increase. My thoughts are herein in 2 sections. Section 1, direct comments. The proposed town budget and Board of Education budget for fiscal year 2021 is unconscionable and irresponsible. This next budget year has many unknowns, but one of the unknowns is that there is and will be a significant downturn in income and employment that will be slow to recover. To increase taxes under these conditions is just plain crazy. Please do not increase taxes. This is a year for the budget to remain static at best. Lower is more practical. Trying to estimate revenues, grants, state support, federal support, etc. in any form, considering the current conditions, is, in my opinion, more of a guesstimate. Do not plan unexpected revenue levels as shown in the proposed budget. The revenue projections are too high. Some of my reduction suggestions: 3% cut from all budgets in general, to include no capital improvements this year, no vehicles for town nor Board of Ed, in parentheses, Jeep, bucket truck, van. Why would physical services want a street light repair bucket truck when the electric company repairs the lights and the town already owns a bucket truck used by the tree warden? What is physical services thinking? No Keisha Farm activity. Change the rules. Instead, use the Land Acquisition Fund or Agricultural Land Preservation Fund. Use special revenue funds. There are several $1 million in special revenue funds to be committed to expenditures for specific purposes other than debt and capital projects. Use them. Change the rules if you have to. Wethersfield Cove Preservation Fund, for the expenditures of these funds for the purpose of maintenance, staffing, and improving Wethersfield Cove Park. Land Acquisition Fund, to account for monies being accumulated to purchase and preserve open space throughout the town. Nature Center, to account for the operations of the town's Nature Center. Eleanor Buck Wolf Nature Center Program. Agricultural Land Preservation Fund, to account for funds received in accordance with Section 7-131 of the Connecticut General Statutes for agricultural land preservation. Community Development Fund, accounts for various projects such as town guide advertising, Silas Dean Highway tree donations, the Wethersfield Farmers Market, and energy funds. Park Program Fund, for the dog and skate park programs. Solomon Wells House. This fund receives money from the rental of the Solomon Wells House. The income pays for maintaining the home. Mill Woods Fund. The fields and facilities in the park are rented out and the proceeds are used to improve park facilities. Section 2, Thoughts and Impressions. Regarding the town of Wethersfield budgeting. For several years now, I have felt that the town taxpayers do not get fair market value for taxes paid, in that the town administrative and BOE administrative leadership, execution, and oversight has deteriorated. Thus, I am opposed to spending more, increasing taxes, until this situation is improved by council and commission oversight. Reference the organizational charts. For example, from the Parks and Recreation Mission Statement, the purpose of the Parks and Recreation Department is to meet the recreational and fitness needs of residents by providing facilities and parks that are well-maintained, safe, accessible, and attractive. The access road into 1860 is always in poor condition, with flooded sinkholes, ruts, potholes. I have repeatedly reported this over several years. There is poor engineering and maintenance for the type of terrain the road traverses. Thus, the road, it remains a continuous problem. The bridge over the 1860 dam is unsafe. It does not meet the national nor state code for pedestrian bridge protective side rails. Numerous requests, but not yet corrected. Contracted projects are not completed. The Griswold Dam repair has left behind considerable vegetation and pondside damage, as well as dumping and access road fencing that has yet to be completed or corrected. The Cove launch does not meet the nationally recommended slope. The parking area is essentially a hardscape without any landscaping as per the original contracted drawings. Discussions with previous and current mayor and harbor commission fall on deaf ears. The sidewalks in town continue to deteriorate, yet there is a part-time sidewalk inspector. My understanding is that the inspector relies more on citizen complaint rather than proactive inspection. Using citizen complaint pits neighbor against neighbor, hence not much gets reported nor corrected by homeowners. The town code is not enforced. There have been private docks in 1860 for years. Wetland pruning and mowing have created a private lawn for an abutting resident on a peninsula in Griswold Pond. Numerous public vistas in the parks are blocked by overgrown trees, shrubs, weeds, debris. Problem reports are submitted through the town website with rarely any feedback as to why not corrected. I could go on, but you get the idea. The town lacks follow-through and supervision, which needs to be more efficient and thorough before increasing taxation and spending.
Now, just to get clarification, Gary, did you really put a timer on Cheryl to read that?
Everybody gets 10 minutes for the first round. If he stopped, I'd bring him back to the next town. But I'm impressed. I am wondering if she practiced it. These are randomly selected, so.
I did not.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Fairly well done. Next caller is 860-558-5882. 860-558-5882.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Melissa Perry, and I'm calling from 18 Clove Hill. Good evening, council members. I am speaking tonight in support of the proposed Board of Education budget. As both a parent of children enrolled in the Wethersfield Public Schools and a Wethersfield Public Schools employee, I have the unique opportunity to see things from multiple perspectives. I strongly feel that by not approving this budget, there will be detrimental cuts and therefore consequences for staff, students, and families. We need to continue to provide our students with a quality education, especially given the current situation that we are in, and the concerns that will arise when we return to our school buildings. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Hold on one moment. Okay, next caller is 860-436-6071. 860-436-6071.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, if you could please state your name and address for the record.
Sure. Hi, this is Chris Vizina from 387 Church Street. And I am calling in support of the Parks and Rec budget, the library budget, and most especially the Board of Education budget. I know that the Board of Education and Superintendent Emmett put forward a budget that was already pretty lean. And when our students finally return to school, things will be uncertain, and we need to ensure that our students have everything that they need, not cuts to what they already have become accustomed to. And since it's Teacher Appreciation Week, I'd just like to add my voice in praise of our teachers in town. Distance learning had to be created on the fly, and they've done such a wonderful job in these unprecedented times. And in response to the earlier commenter who suggested that teachers in Wethersfield schools should forgo their salary, which is comparable to teachers in surrounding towns, and that they should get paid what parochial school teachers get paid, I cannot disagree strongly enough. I also cannot agree with Mr. Young's idea that distance learning should be the answer to saving money in town. No one who's living with distance learning right now thinks that this is a great new solution for anything. We're doing the best that we can, but it is not an acceptable educational system. So I thank you very much for your time, and I urge you to vote to pass the proposed budget.
Thank you.
Okay, next caller is 860-985-2717. 860-985-2717.
Hi, this is Marjorie Carson. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Marjorie Carson, 12 Avalon Place. First, I want to say thank you to the Board of Ed, Superintendent Mike Emmett, the Town Council, and Gary Evans for all your hard work through this really, really tough time. It's just been amazing what you've all been able to accomplish with this virus. I also want to communicate my strong support for the Board of Ed's budget proposal. As you already know, the Board of Ed incurred over $700,000 in cuts last year, and if there are further cuts to our schools, it will continue to compromise the class sizes, the services, and quality of our schools, education, and the quality and value of this town. So with respect to the overall budget, as with every year, the town of Wethersfield has had a tough time with the increase in costs, but I think we need to recognize that all surrounding towns are going through the same budget issues as we are. And many towns have a higher tax base than we do and are proposing similar increases to their budgets. South Windsor is proposing currently a $4.4 million increase. Glastonbury is proposing a $3.3 million increase. And also just the understanding, because I feel like people put so much hate on the town council and the town and the Board of Ed. These increased costs are from outside forces. They're not like we're just coming up with things to spend money on, but health insurance, MIRA with the garbage collection, NBC, pension costs. If you are angry at these increased costs, those are the people you have to go to. Look at your federal representatives and state representatives and see, because all the towns are incurring these increased costs that they have no control over. So what we're just asking for is what, normal school, and not cutting what our kids should get. So I really hope the town council members do their research with respect to what other towns are doing, what the school systems of other towns need and are getting as well, because the reality is that we were all being compared to other towns. That is how our property is valued. And too often I feel like town council members are cynical when it comes to increased needs of our schools. They assume the Board of Ed and superintendent are exaggerating the needs. And school budget was heavily cut last year. It just can't withstand new cuts that compromise what the schools provide. And I want to just emphasize that the number one way, and I don't think this should happen or be the reality, but it is, that a town's property values increase or decrease is by the performance and investment in its schools. If you keep cutting the Board of Ed budget year after year, families are just going to start leaving or sending their kids to private schools or bad-mouthing the reputation of this town, which will further decrease property values. And that, in turn, means a need for increased taxes. So with that said, I want to express some minor frustration with the town manager's proposed budget report. It was very informative, and I don't disagree with anything in the report. But the very first page starts with a chart on mill rates and how the proposed budget will increase our mill rates. And I just think that mill rates should not be the end-all, be-all consideration of our town's worth and future. And having this chart on the front and center of the page makes it very easy for people to not read any further. And there are many, many pages after that. So they'll say, why bother? The mill rate says it all. But the mill rate is a number, it's like a scarlet letter that towns and cities must wear to show their tax rate. But what I get annoyed with it because it's an arbitrary number. It is applied to each town differently. Each town has a different property value. So a mill rate of Glastonbury might be slower than Wethersfield, but their property values are generally higher. So they generally pay the same or higher property taxes as we do, even based on the same house. My house in Wethersfield could easily be worth $20,000 or more in Glastonbury. So that homeowner in Glastonbury could easily be paying similar or higher taxes on that property, even with a lower mill rate. Similar to Hartford. Hartford has a 74 mill rate, but because their property taxes values are assessed much lower, a house my size and the land and everything, they pay lower taxes, believe it or not. So my point with a mill rate is not that it shouldn't be the whole story, but all too often it is. It's a measurement of success of a town council or a superintendent, but it's arbitrary. So given the pressures that this town and our schools and communities are all over the state have been having to deal with the coronavirus, I just feel like this is not the time to cut services and educational needs. And finally, I want to emphasize to the town council members that their decision on this budget directly impacts the kids of this town and the public schools that they attend. I don't want you to think for 1 second that you just pass budgets, you don't make decisions on education or where money is spent. The town council members, this is your decision, your vote, not only greatly affects the quality of my kids' schooling, but it also tells me if you support our schools. Are you a council member that cares only about looking fiscally efficient, or are you a council member who wants the best working and quality in town? Because cutting our Board of Education budget last year did nothing really to help this town. We did lower the mill rate, yes, but it did not improve the town one bit. So please show us that you support the quality of our schools and our town services, and pass the budgets as proposed by the town and Board of Ed. Thank you.
Thank you, Marjorie. Gary?
All right, next we have a letter from Tom Lawton, 782 Knott Street. To all the council members, first I would like to thank you for volunteering your time to the town for what I know is a thankless job. My father was on council for many years in the 70s. I would encourage you to approve a budget with zero increase or as close to a zero increase as possible. I understand that our grand list is fairly flat and there are contractual increases that influence the budget. I don't think the Board of Ed side does any penny pinching. In fact, I think they do everything they can to get as much and spend as much money as they can. I would like to see you cut their budget so they have to get creative in their spending. They use the scare tactic that they will have to cut teachers and programs. Let them prove that they have done everything they can do to reduce spending. I think the results from the last election demonstrate that the majority of citizens in Wethersfield want something different. Large increases every year in taxes.
They lowered taxes last time.
Sorry. Large increases every year in taxes is not sustainable. I think it is time for a change. Please read my comments into the record.
Thank you, Gary.
You're welcome. Let's see who's still. Okay, next caller is area code 860-729-4961. Area code 860-729-4961.
Can you hear us?
Caller 860-729-4961. Okay. Next caller is 203-215-6574.
Hi.
Oh, sorry about that. You're still muted. You're live now.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. This is Eileen Washburn, 12 Acorn Way, and I'm just calling to urge the town council to accept the proposed budget for the Board of Ed and support the library budget, both which maintain existing services and staffing. I think after this crisis, children are going to need more help in schools, not less. And as a librarian, I want to echo Doreen's comments about the importance of the library, especially in times of economic downturn and crisis, because the need for resources and tutoring and job search for our families that are most in need is only going to increase after this. And as Marjorie said, these budgets are not adding very much, but just keeping in line with current salaries and insurance increases. And I think we're just going to have to get a little more creative and look at other places that need to be cut instead of going after educational services. Thank you.
Thank you, Eileen.
Dolores, if you want to read the next one.
Sure.
Please.
This is from James DiTomaso. Dear council members, I am writing to let you know that nearly 4% budget increase, particularly now with so many people having reduced or lost income, will have serious consequences. As it is, our taxes are some of the highest of any of the surrounding towns. People on fixed incomes and those who are income restrained find it difficult to meet our current tax obligations. Further increases will only add to their challenges and discourage potential residents from moving here. While I strongly support investing in our education system, maybe it's time to ask other town employees for some givebacks. Maybe it's time to find some greater efficiencies. Maybe this is the year we could really double down on regional cost sharing and purchasing. Other Connecticut towns are holding budgets at least last year's level. How about we do the same? Best regards, James Tomaso.
Thank you, Dolores.
You're welcome.
Okay. Cheryl, if you want to do the next one into the record.
Sure. This is from Eliza and Harry Petrucci. I hope this email finds you well and that you and your family are healthy and safe during this time. The purpose of this letter is to express my concerns over rumors that a 0% budget increase for our schools is being proposed by members of our town council. It is extremely important that this does not occur, as this will be detrimental to the education of our children in town. We cannot afford to lose any of our teachers or valuable programs provided for our students, especially now. Children have now lost months of face-to-face instruction, and many will be returning to school with deficits that will not be able to be addressed with a staff or resources that are cut. Now more than ever, we need to make sure we are investing in a quality education for our kids. They deserve it. In looking at the budget in the coming months, I urge you to please strongly consider giving our schools the 2.5% increase that they deserve. Let's make our kids' future our priority here in Wethersfield. Thank you for your consideration. Eliza and Harry Petrucci.
Thank you, Cheryl.
You're welcome.
Do you want to try calling this person next?
You want me to?
I don't have the number on the line, but
Okay. Cell phone, you think?
I would do home.
Okay. Okay. Nope.
Phone went to?
Hello. Looks like it's on, but
Yeah, I just heard them hang up. Caller hung up. Maybe try the other number?
you want me to try the other one?
Yeah.
Hello?
Hello. Hi, this is a Town of Wethersfield public hearing, and my understanding you wanted to speak. If you could state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 10 minutes.
Oh, thank you very much. John Consul calling, 38 Ivy Lane. Hope everyone is well and staying safe in these hard times. I've been listening to a lot this evening on what people have been talking about. I'm going to do a little bit different approach. I'm going to do a little high-level facts, because perhaps a lot of people in the town have been insulated from what's really happening, not only in the world but in this country, and it has an effect on our financial outlook in the future. So I'm taking a top-down approach from the federal level to the state level to our town level. I will not even get into the federal money supply of economics of M1, M2, and M3, and the leveraging the Treasury is doing to make trillions of dollars possible to be doled out to many people in this country. In respect to the $2 to $3 trillion the Treasury and the Feds have doled out in the past several weeks as a stimulus to aid millions in this country with all the shutdowns, along with 30 million people out of work, shortened food supplies, to name a few catastrophic happenings, all from this black swan event that crippled our economy. So the government prints money, funds numerous programs, and we run out of money within several days. No one is talking about the other side of the equation, the liability side, and how this will ever get paid back. Everyone's talking about our education in this town, and I totally agree that we need a good education in this town. But these children that are being educated today will be paying these trillions of dollars in years to come. What is happening in the federal level can be talked about for years to come, as the ramifications will be long-lasting, far worse than anyone could ever imagine. Let's speak about our state. It is now in the red, $900 million, almost $1 billion, which in reality will be more like $2 to $3 billion in the next year, and $2 to $3 billion more the year after that. If the towns think that we are going to be getting funds from the state, it's going to be getting worse year after year. We just can't print our way out of this. And the feds and the states are going to be helping the towns like ours less and less as we go on. let's face it, in case people are wondering, the money's gone. We are in a world of hurt, and no matter how many do-good events we plan, it will not fix the economy crisis that we are headed in over the next 5 years. This town will have to come up with a 5-year plan and budget, zero budget, year after year for the next 5 years in order to see where we stand. Yes, markets will rebound, they always do, but the devastation left behind on Main Street will last for many years. I am convinced that many businesses in this town probably will not reopen again. In my opinion, we will not bounce back fast enough, as reports say. Many businesses will not reopen, as I've stated. Many people will be out of work for a greater period of time. Prior to this black swan, the economy was rolling right along, and the outcome was looking good. As a matter of fact, when the election took place last year, I had sent some ideas to the town, to the mayor of the town and the deputy mayor about building 2 new schools, Highcrest School and Hamner School. Well, these plans that I had and some suggestions I had just can't take place right now because of what has happened. On the other hand, we keep rolling right along as if the economic events were not in play in this town, and produced a budget increase of 3.4%, or an estimated average increase of $265 in a tax bill. West Hartford has a population of 70,000 people and a mill rate of 41.8. Our town has a population of 26,000 people and has a mill rate of 40.74. We in no way have the amenities of West Hartford, but yet we pay and pay year after year. No one talks about the increases that have taken place over the past 10 years, but we're talking about trying to make a decrease this year. Let's focus on the increases that have taken place over the last 10 years and where that's gotten us. This town, like many other towns, are at a crossroads, and we need to plan for the next 5 years. Many, many families will be financially strapped. Just read it in Wethersfield Life that just came out, along with what's taking place in our social service areas, not only on the state and the local area. We now see food lines never seen before. We see multitude of job losses getting higher and higher. 401k investment plans decimated. Well-positioned companies on the verge of closing. Wild swings in the market with no end in sight. People, if you don't understand what's going on, turn your televisions on every morning and watch the market report. In the morning and then again in the afternoon at the closing bell. Even extremely knowledgeable people can't figure out what is happening in this economy. We need leadership that can make hard decisions regarding restructuring, revamping the way we do business in this town. Going forward, taking better care of our rolling assets, our buildings, consolidating work efforts, working with less, working smarter, thinking out of the box, going against state mandates if needed. Let's face it, the state is in a crisis, and if we can't meet some of these state mandates when it comes to education, we just should go against what the state is saying. What can they possibly do to this town or other towns when they have their own set of problems? You need to think out of the box. This is going to be a bad year this year, but the next year and the year after that are going to be even worse. If we don't take leadership now, nothing will ever get accomplished in this town. I could go on and on with more thoughts and ideas, but I think I made my thoughts known. Many people have spoken this evening, and thank you for the opportunity to let me speak. Hope all is well with everyone. You're going to have a lot on your plate in the next couple of months. I hope you could do well. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Much appreciated. Next caller, please, Gary. Or letter.
Let's do area code 203. Area code 203-537-9114. 203-537-9114.
I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
I've never wished I sent an email instead of called more in my life. Thanks, guys, for listening. I'll try to make this brief. Beth Riley, 12 Hubbard Place, forgot that. I'm just calling tonight to relay my strong feeling that the Board of Ed budget be fully approved. First off, I just want to publicly thank the teachers who have worked tirelessly to train themselves using brand new platforms, collaborating openly, and just providing really relevant work for all the kids. The teachers have provided critical community outreach. They've worked hard to provide some sense of normalcy in this time. Their continued efforts have made the best of a difficult situation. And I can't disagree more with Bob Young saying this could be a possible cost saver of distance learning. It is really making the best of a difficult situation, but it is in no way does it replace any standardized regular school building and class. These teachers, schools, and students deserve the full 3.5% budget increase. Just as a reminder, this budget increase is mostly due to contractual obligations. There are no new added programs or services. So any cuts to the proposed budget will mean loss of current programming, services, or personnel. Right now, we need to keep every tool for student engagement at our disposal. No one can yet determine what the next school year will look like. This will be a critical transition. There's so many questions circling around, and all of these questions will cost money. Will teachers be wearing PPE? Will more lunch aides need to be hired so students can eat lunches in their classrooms? Will we need to hire more janitorial staff to keep up with the constant cleaning? Will special education students be provided with compensatory services that they may not have gotten during the school closure? That's a huge question. This crisis has underscored dramatic inequities, and resources will be needed now more than ever to intervene with students who will need more support, both academically and emotionally. The budget that was proposed was for a drastically different world than we are living in now. I understand you have to try to balance being fiscally responsible, but it's imperative that Wethersfield provide the full resources needed now more than ever. As a reminder, historically, cuts in essential services such as education deepen economic hard times, damage local property values, and dramatically slow a town's recovery. Please fully fund the Board of Education budget. Our students are counting on it, and they deserve this. Thank you.
Thank you, Beth. Gary?
Yep. So reading one into the record, Jonathan Williams, no address provided. Members of the Town Council, my understanding is that the proposed Wethersfield Town budget for 2020-2021 features a 3.7% budget increase over the prior year. While I understand that many may view this as a modest increase, I personally find an increase to be objectionable. I am personally faced with a 10% salary reduction in the second half of 2020. I know that I am lucky and that many people, including some right here in Wethersfield, are facing much larger financial impacts than I am. Any municipal budget where the government refuses to recognize the economic circumstances of its citizens makes a mockery of the philosophy of shared sacrifice, which in prior years had been used to justify tax increases in a recovering economy. I strongly urge you to reconsider and enact a budget in line with the current financial situation of town residents. Jonathan Williams.
Thank you, Gary.
Dolores, do you want to do the next one?
Donna Hemmon, 315 Garden Street. Good evening to all. As a taxpayer and a former counselor, I have some comments to make. These are unprecedented times in our country, and more closely, our town. We have many families that lost their jobs due to COVID-19, and hopefully those businesses will be able to make a comeback. Wethersfield's mill rate is one of the highest in the state at over 40 mills. We cannot sustain an increase of 1.39 mills, especially now. I have reviewed the budget and understand that this 3.98% is being proposed currently for the public to weigh in and comment, and then the council will discuss and deliberate to formulate decision. My comments. Related to the fund balance, current policy recommends 7 to 10% remain in the fund in anticipated of unexpected occurrences. There is a recommendation to increase the balance to 8 to 12%. While I understand the goal is getting there, I would recommend that this year the funds stay at 11%, so that would be additional dollars to come from the fund, other than that the $400,000 budgeted. Under CNEF, see that VoIP phones proposed for $300,000 would postpone that 1 year. Also, the Jeep with Plow Transit Van, allocate 1/2 for bucket truck and 1/2 next year. So total from there, $426,595. Board of Ed, because the buildings have been shut down, utility cost savings should be able to be taken. Also supply costs, as no one is using them, so should be there for next year. The board should look at other areas where they can find savings. I know there are there. I served long enough to know that. So as you can see, I am not just saying don't raise the taxes, but trying to offer thoughtful solutions as well. Thank you for what you do. I understand that every year we always think it is a tough year, but this has thrown quite the monkey wrench in life, and we need to take that into consideration and do the right thing. Donna Emmett. Donna was also a mayor and Board of Ed chairperson.
Thank you, Dolores.
Okay, I'm going to do, next caller is area code 860-878, 878-0133, but it looks like they've recently dropped off, 860-878-0133. Looks like they have dropped off. Okay, while I go through the list again, Cheryl, if you want to do read the next one into the record.
Okay. Carolyn Valeries, President, Friends of the Wethersfield Library. As President of the Friends of the Wethersfield Library, I would like to address the importance of the Wethersfield Library at this time. The budget submitted by the librarian has no room for reductions, especially as we face the reopening day, whenever that may be, and the town and its residents adjust to the future. Especially crucial will be the help given to those seeking jobs after losing or being laid off of work since the closing of so many businesses. The library is always a haven and resource. There are computers for those who don't have them, newspapers for those who can no longer afford them, and of course the books which endure in our time of fewer bookstores, and essentially the staff who help in myriad ways. The Friends financially support the library by funding programs and furnishings which enhance the library's services. Volunteers have given hundreds of thousands of dollars, if paid, of work in raising these funds. We urge your support of this rather minuscule part of the town budget. We thank you for your consideration. Carolyn Valeries, President.
Next one for the record is from Lori Rona, 16 Fairmont Street. I'm writing to support the proposed budget of the Wethersfield Library. I was appointed to the library board this year, and I have had the opportunity to participate in the development of this budget. The current library director, Brooke Berry, is a unique individual who operates from a place of strict fiscal responsibility. The current proposed budget is already intentionally designed to streamline positions and resources. The areas of increase are due to higher insurance premiums and union negotiated salaries. These are areas outside of the control of the library. Additional cuts to this budget, or the rumored 0% increase, would actually result in substantial cuts to library programs and resources. Understanding that we are unprecedented times, we should be not only looking for ways to reduce the cost to taxpayers, but also planning for probable community needs. I've worked as a career counselor, helping people find jobs and expand their careers for the last 20 years. It is very likely that we are going to come out of this quarantine with a changed economy and job market. Historically, all library usage always rises during a recession. Specifically, the people of Wethersfield are going to need to be able to count on the library to provide resources to help them generate materials, research opportunities, and even find employment. This is not the time to reduce the library budget. Dolores, if you want to do the next one.
Jennifer Hill.
Did I pick up on you?
Yeah, you broke up.
Anybody left speaking on phone?
I did a quick check. It doesn't look like there was a couple people still hanging on the line, but from what I can see, all of those numbers have been called. They might be waiting for their second 10 minutes.
Okay.
Which I...
Well, do we want to let them go a second time now before we start reading those that have been submitted online or via email?
Yep, I can do so. So let's start with area code 860-563-6923.
Yes, this is Bob Young. On page C, 146, you talk about long-term debt, and it appears that you have $42,318,310 of debt. That's a heck of a lot of money for where we are right now. And as the economy starts to go down, it's going to really become a bite on us. And I think you need to consider all the purchases that you've made. And under the last former administration, there was a number of purchases made on credit. And I hope going forward this will stop. On page D1, capital improvements. Oh, I'm sorry, it's D2, capital improvements. It says additional funds, if additional funds are available, the CIAC recommends $75,000 to fund in funding to retain consultant to complete the Keisha Farm Master Plan study. If you're looking for something to cut, this is what you want to cut. I mean, we don't need someone to tell us what to do with that property. We already know it's a major loss to the town, but I really think it's something you should consider scratching from this particular budget. As we go back to the front pages of the budget, and I'm just reiterating things that I've seen in here. On page intro number 3, you talk about debt service increased $183,720, or 3.24%, related to the purchase of the Keisha Farm. Again, here we are. We had 5,284 people that voted at the referendum against this particular property, knowing it was a loser. And it was a loser, price-wise. And here we are already spending this kind of money on an annual basis, $183,000, which is pushing up all of our numbers. And also, I'd like to point out on the same page, you have 3.24%, whereas over where your circle is, right at the top of the page, it says debt service, $183,720. It says 9%. Maybe you want to check into that. And the same goes along with the assessment for the Metropolitan District Commission, an increase of $256,300. You got 6.23%. Yet up in the graph, it says 13%. With that same amount of money. You might want to look into that. You know, in your, Mr. Manager, I saw an article in the newspaper on, I think it was a Saturday issue, where they paraphrased exactly what was written in here under your conclusion on intro number 7, page number 7. And it says, this town knows the importance of assisting one another. We do it better than any other municipality in the state. I don't think we need to do all this, and I don't know why you would even say that. And also you talk about tough times require tough decisions. I don't really see tough decisions in your proposal, in your budget. And you say that, therefore, you say that you make a number of difficult choices ahead of upcoming year, and these decisions are reflected in the proposed budget. Again, like I say, I don't see them in here. The main function of government is to provide services to town residents and business. What the heck does that mean? You know, different levels of service, or 100% service. I mean, you know, I don't understand this, why we provide so much. And we go to far limits to provide people with services. We should be cutting this back. I think people should be responsible for some of their own. I'm moving on to another page. Let's see, we spoke about that, the circuit breaker. I had noticed where we have quite a list of purchases, all on-time payments. And, you know, this seems to keep growing, and it's something that needs to stop. And I don't see, such as the Board of Education purchased 2,000 Chromebooks just recently. I don't see them on here. Where is that list of expenditures or items that are being purchased on time? We should be able to see them. In the area of fund balances, I have noticed that, and I don't know what page it's on, but I don't see the student activity fund in there. I think it belongs in there. Or did they liquidate it? And that's possible. It could have been liquidated. But I see in there, you know, you're providing services for the Wethersfield Teen Center, Theater, Wethersfield Ski, Snowboard Club, Men's Softball Group, the Barracuda Swim Team. You know, there's a number of organizations here that you're providing services to. And they're using your books in a sense. And I don't think this should be happening. If they're not a town organization, we shouldn't be handling any of that. But we need to find ways of reducing costs. And I believe that these kinds of budgets that are coming out with Wethersfield, 3.6%, is extremely high. We're seeing, as some people have spoke tonight about the financial markets, we're going to be looking at tough times, and we need to get this proposal in line with what the economy is here in Connecticut. And your budget, Mr. Manager, is not the Connecticut budget. It's not in line with the way we are here. It's sinking, and you need to do something drastic to bring these numbers down. So anyway, I'll be talking to you as the weeks go on, and let me see if there's anything else. I'd like to say this. I know tonight there was a number of people who that have identified themselves as teachers, parents, who continue to support the school no matter what. But from what my understanding is, there's approximately 2,400 properties in the town of Wethersfield that children come from to go to our schools. We have, 12,000 roughly properties? I mean, this is a small minority that comes in here and rules and petitions and and does everything possible to raise taxes on all the rest of us. And nobody tonight, a couple of people had spoke about the seniors that we have in this town. A third of our population is seniors. And those people are on fixed incomes. We heard from Mr. Bob Woodward tonight, again. And, I sympathize with him. And I myself am a senior. I have to continue working because I live here, because my taxes are so high. So I really hope that you would consider the fact of trying to find some better way of running our school system. Our school system needs to go into this distant learning. I mean, try it with the high school students. They're more computer savvy, and they would be able to adapt very well. And when they do go to college, I suspect it's going to be about the same way, distant learning, and get them into it. And also it helps save some money. So anyway, I appreciate the opportunity to talk, and thank you very much. Good night.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Anybody else for the second time on the call?
Actually, hold on. I saw a number pop up. Okay, 860-899-8565.
Hi there. Yes, I've been waiting here for 3 hours to talk. I don't know how I was looked over. My name is Kim Miller. I live on 49 Old Post Road. I'm calling in support of passing the education budget at the 3.5% increase, which was proposed by our superintendent. In order for Wethersfield to keep up with surrounding towns and to remain a desirable place to live, the schools need to maintain at least where we currently are. Stripping our schools of much-needed teachers, supplies, programs, and money towards general upkeep will lessen the value of our town. For anyone on the town council who has not stepped inside our elementary schools, I encourage you to see how little they have changed or have been updated since they were built. Highcrest, the largest and most crowded of the elementary schools, has 4 kindergarten classes and has no room to grow. We have pods attached to our school that expired years ago and were deemed unsafe for the kids to be in. We need to figure out ways to bring in more revenue and bigger businesses so we can stop cutting education and start investing in the future of Wethersfield. So thank you for your time. And I think there's other callers that have been waiting that also got overlooked, so I hope that we can get them in as well.
Thank you, Kim. We didn't purposely keep you out. Okay.
No worries. Thank you. Have a good night, guys.
So, if I may say, Kim, if you're still on the line, if you could ask them, I'm looking, and every number that's left is one that I've read off.
There is one person right now. Hold on, let me get her.
If you have a phone number, I'm happy to find it in this list.
Yep, I'm pulling it up for you right now. It is Sarah Smith, and it's 617-953-5898. She's on the line.
I don't even have it in my queue, so if you want to...
She logged on the same time I did, so I think for some reason we probably were one of the first people on.
So if you give me that number again, I'll call out. I'll call out to her. It's 617-953. What were the last 4?
5898.
Okay, we're going to give her a call.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That needs a 9.
It's Massachusetts.
A 9 and then a 1, you think? On
No,
the
no 9, just 1.
Okay. You want me to call now?
Yep, please.
Hi, you've reached Sarah. I can't get to the phone right now, so please leave a message.
Okay, try it again.
Okay. I'll read.
1-617-953.
I'm wondering at one point if we hit our limit to how many people could be on the line at once.
Hello?
Hi, you're on live for the Town Council public hearing on the budget. If you'd like to state your...
Thank you so much for calling.
Sure.
Sorry, guys, I'll be quick. I know you've been there for a while. My main purpose in speaking tonight is in support of the proposed Board of Ed budget.
If I could interrupt you.
Program.
If I could interrupt you for 1 second, could you give your name and address for the record?
Sorry.
It's okay.
Sorry, I was flustered when you called. My name is Sarah Smith. I live at 60 Blueberry Hill.
Did you get that? Okay, thank you.
Okay, my main purpose is speaking in support of the proposed Board of Ed budget, which contains no new programs, no new initiatives, no new positions, and no flexibility for unexpected expenses. There is so much that we already do not have. Foreign languages in elementary schools, electronic devices for our youngest students in grades K and 1, any competitive middle school sports, etc. This budget doesn't address any of that. It's simply trying to maintain the status quo. There is no fat here, so to speak. There's nothing left to skim. Any cuts at all to our Board of Ed budget will look like bigger class sizes, which we simply can't afford, especially currently, less tools, and fewer programs. Please do not blindly think that a 1-2% cut to the Board of Ed's budget will affect our residents the same way a cut to an asset-heavy department would. We just don't have the assets. In addition to the enormous financial implications of COVID-19, which I believe I understand, there will also be enormous changes in our schools. We don't know what next year's school year is going to look like with regards to social distancing requirements, but we do know that it's pretty much a sure thing that we can't do the status quo. If we must limit class sizes or run the district on an altered schedule, the last thing we can afford to have to do is cut staff or resources, especially in the areas of social and emotional support for our students. The bottom line is we are going to need more help, not less. Thanks so much for your time. You guys are troopers. Have a nice night.
Thank you, Sarah. We appreciate it. We also appreciate the letter you sent in as well.
Apologize for that, yep. Okay, repeat caller, 860-721-0713. People are starting to drop off. Okay, we'll try
10:30.
860-56, nope, sorry, I already did that one. That would be Bob, he would get a third chance. 860-836-5561. Sorry, 860-563-69, no, keeps moving every time. People are dropping off, it's hard to keep track. 860-878-4688.
Hello.
Yes, this is the second part of public comment. If you wish to comment again, you have 10 minutes. If you could give your name and address.
Yeah, this is Claudia Boy, 639 Highland Street. I spoke the first time about the fact that we're in very difficult times. The only other thing that I wanted to say, I wanted to hear everyone's comments and so on and so forth, but the other thing that I think the town needs to recognize, I fully support education. I mean, it's critical and it's wonderful and it's fantastic, and you know, I mean, you want to do what's best for the kids, but at the same time, you have to also remember, you know, your other constituents in town that are definitely hurting, and you know, there's a difficult balance to be made there, and I'm not, you know, really sure if it's even a solvable equation, because if you're looking out in time, you know, I don't know if the teachers' pensions give them COLAs or whatever they do, but I would think that we're going to have massive inflation based on the fact there's so much money printing that, you know, I like one caller said, I don't think people understand really how serious the economic situation is. And in Connecticut, it's even worse, because if you raise taxes more on a property like mine, which I pay a lot of tax dollars, and I also pay state taxes, and then I also pay federal taxes, all right? And there used to be that I could take my state and local income taxes, and I could, you know, at least have a deduction on my federal taxes. But then in 2017, the law changed where, you know, you have a $10,000 limit on that. So basically, when you go way above that, okay, and even above what the standard deduction was, because it also took away the personal exemption. A lot of people think they got a break, but when you minus the $8,100 from personal exemption and you get a $24,000 standard deduction, you're not really getting a break, especially when you're paying,
40, 50,000 in taxes all combined. I mean, this gets to be huge numbers. So what ends up happening is when you add more tax burden to people like in my situation, you're basically effectively making me pay taxes on money I don't even see. And there's probably a lot of people that are in the state of Connecticut because our houses are valuable, and, I totally agree that schools are critical to keep the value of your places going, but there's going to be a point of reckoning where it's not going to matter because you're just not going to be able to support, your house is not going to be able to appreciate enough because you're going to cut into it with an increase in tax as it goes up. I always said when the federal government made that 2017, bailout for, help to the rich, what they ended up doing is effectively capping everyone's house at like $350,000 because, that would be like the average in Connecticut of $10,000 for property tax. So you really have to think about this because this is a wide-ranging effect. And I reiterate again, if there's at all any way, I don't want to hurt the kids. You want to keep the board going and a lot of good arguments. If there's any way to find reserve dollars to do that with, cuts in the administrative side. I've always said, I don't know why people get cars. I mean, if it doesn't have a siren or a, or a plow on it, I don't know why our treasurer's driving around in a chauffeur-driven car, or the attorney general, or so on and so forth, or I see deep people driving around cars, and then they can use them also. I just don't see that. I have to pay for my own gas. I had to do my own thing. I, worked for many years, and in the private sector, and we don't get automatic increases and things like that. And you're going to see with the state. I mean, it's just a slap in the face of the people that pay the bills. If all of a sudden municipal and state employees expect raises, they expect COLAs, they expect this, they expect that, and the private guy sits there. I have a buddy of mine. His father was the CFO of Hubble. Okay, for 20 years, his mother was a state nurse. The big joke used to be after 20 years, her pension was greater than her husband's. That was a joke. He was the CFO of Hubble Corp. So I just think you have to think in a little more longer term than you're doing 1 year. You have to think out 5 years, 10 years, what's going to happen. And I got to be honest with you, I don't see it as being bright. So do the best you can. We appreciate all the work that you do. I know it's not easy. I've been involved in budgets and things at a very high level in the corporation in the billions of dollars. I know it's not easy, but good luck, and hopefully you'll come to a good decision. Thank you very much. Bye now.
Thank you for calling. We appreciate it.
Okay, I have Melissa Gill on the line.
Hi, I'm actually here just to listen.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Thank you so much.
All right. 860-721-0713. 860-721-0713. Okay. 860, hold on one second. Eight 860-836-5561. 860-836-5561.
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay. Maybe he doesn't want to speak a second time. 836-5561, your mic is open if you'd like to speak for a second time.
I'm all set, thanks.
Okay. We may have exhausted the callers. Unless you want to ask if there's anybody who would like to speak.
Just going through to make sure. 1, 2, 3.
I think we exhausted Counselor Forrest.
Actually, he did text me before. I think he may be suffering from some of the similar allergies that I'm suffering from.
Better not be COVID. I think we have all the numbers, so I'm just going to ask if there's anyone who would, let's do it this way. If there's anyone who, oops, that's not going to work.
Mute yourself.
Can't do that. Bear with me 1 second. Okay. Okay. How's that doing, everyone?
I have a letter to read.
Okay. In the meantime, we're going to do one more look, and in the meantime, I'll have Dolores read a letter into the record, and I will clean this up.
This is from Jennifer Hill, 81 Broad Street. My name is Jennifer Hill. I live at 81 Broad Street in Wethersfield. I am reaching out to urge the Wethersfield Town Council to full support the Wethersfield Board of Education proposed budget for the 2021 school year. I have 2 children in the school system who count on special services in place to support their education. We cannot afford to take away any of these vital resources from our students. Be well, Jen Hill. Thank you.
Okay. And at this point, it looks like At this point, it looks like we just have ones to read into the record. So, Cheryl, please continue.
Rosemary Hill, 223 Hartford Avenue. Hello, my name is Rosemary Hill, and I live at 223 Hartford Avenue. I am writing to you to fully fund Wethersfield Public Schools. Now more than ever, our schools need to be fully funded so we can provide the best resources for our students and staff. As a public school educator, I know firsthand what it takes to teach our children. With the unprecedented times before us, it is imperative that schools have the resources needed to get our children where they need to be when schools are back in session. I am a proud alumni of Wethersfield Public Schools and feel fortunate to watch my nieces and nephews grow up in the same community as I did. We need to give them every opportunity for success by fully funding Wethersfield Public Schools. Sincerely, Rosemary Hill.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Andrea Faber, 180 Oxy Oak Drive. Dear Town Council, I'm writing to express my support of the proposed budget. During this uncertain time, our schools, library, and town services have been able to provide an immense value to the community. The proposed budget increase will ensure that they will be able to continue this important work as we navigate the future. As a parent of an elementary school-aged children, I am grateful for the way in which the school administration, educators, and support staff quickly adapted to serving our community remotely. They were able to draw upon their skills and resources that will only be more necessary in the coming years. Our students deserve to return to a strong school system when this crisis is over. Any cuts to the proposed budget would significantly impact the strength of our school system to the detriment of our students and our community. Thank you, Andrea Faber, 180 Oxy Oak Drive. Dolores, if you want to do next.
This is from Kelly Fisher. Hello. As a Wethersfield parent of a 3rd grader and a rising kindergartner, I wanted to share my strong support for the passage of the current 2021 fiscal year school budget. There are many positive reasons why my husband and I decided to raise our family and children in Wethersfield, with a strong school system being the top of our list. Student resources are critical, and a reduction in staffing and programming should not be something the town is willing to sacrifice if we are looking to maintain and grow our vibrant community. The investments the town has placed in the education system could not be more clear than now during the current pandemic. The fact that the district was able to pivot to distant learning so quickly due to these unforeseen circumstances reinforces my decision to be a proud Wethersfield resident and parent. in the town's priority in the school system were to shift and education was deprioritized and defunded, I would question my decision to reside in town and send my children to the public school. Sincerely, Kelly Fisher.
Thank you, Dolores.
You're welcome.
Cheryl's next.
Rita Ann Owen, 42 Wells Farm Drive. Dear councilors, due to the pandemic and the resulting economic downturn, there may be an inclination to pass a budget with no increase. Instead, I think the budgets should be passed as presented by Mr. Evans because of the additional needs our community may face in dealing with the pandemic and its aftermath. There are costs which have increased, trash pickup and MDC, for example. If these are not offset by an increase in taxes, then other services will need to be cut. In the past, when councils have looked to lower taxes or reduce the mill rate, they have often cut the Board of Education budget and left the board to deal with the fallout. Besides the usual arguments of the importance and value of education, including the impact on property values, this year I think we should be very careful about reducing the Board of Education budget because the response to the pandemic may very well lead to increased costs. As we look forward to safely returning to school, there will undoubtedly be the need for realignment of classrooms, increased cleaning, and protective equipment. The costs of providing compensatory education hours to students with IEPs is probably unknown at this point, but could be substantial. I urge you to look to the future and pass the budget as presented. Thank you for your service to the town and for your attention. Rita Ann Owen, 42 Wells Farm Drive.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Okay.
A bit of good news, we're down to just one screen of participants, so.
Okay.
In there.
Tara Safas, no address provided, I don't think.
No.
Good evening, my name is Tara Safas. My husband Joseph and I have been residents of Wethersfield for 7 years now, where we have raised our 2 daughters who currently attend Hamner Elementary School. I've been an educator for the past 14 years, and my last 2 of the 14 years have been at Highcrest Elementary School, where I've had the absolute privilege of teaching kindergarten amongst my amazing colleagues and staff who I treasure. I love our town and I love our schools. I thought it was important to share my comment tonight, as I find myself in a very unique position, both being a resident and an educator of the town. In this unprecedented time, more than ever, it's so important that our town and its entities come together and continue to provide for these amazing children and families as we have in the past. While we currently find ourselves in a predicament where this overwhelming pandemic has affected our lives in countless ways, it has also forced all education to be moved online in a distance learning model, which is unprecedented for all of us. However, with all of that said, this situation has not only reaffirmed what I've always believed about education and the role of a teacher, but it has strengthened my view through my lens as both a parent and educator. That our familiar and constant educational resources are far more valuable than ever. I am proud to be in the profession I am in, and I would do absolutely anything for my students and families. I also have witnessed the love and dedication of my children's teachers shared with my family in a million different ways consistently throughout the years, but especially in the last several weeks. The educators of Wethersfield are the signs of hope and the faces of consistency in a time when it is needed most. In order to help maintain the morale and spirits of the professional educational community who strive to always deliver the very best education we can provide to our students and families. We need to support them in every effort possible. I'm in full support of the proposed budget increase, as it is necessary for our educational community to be funded in a way that would continue to support the whole system financially instead of taking away from it. I will continue to do my best as an educator in the community that I love, as that is what is and always what will be in my heart. However, it is my hope that this vision is shared and supported by all of the entities of our town, so we can continue to grow as an educational community and provide all of our students with what they need and deserve. Quote, growth is never by mere chance, it is a result of forces working together. End quote, James Cash Penny. Thank you for your time, Tara Safas.
Thanks, Gary.
Okay, I have something from Jason Roy, 20 Oldman Road. I am writing in support of fully funding our public schools. It is of utmost importance we continue to be a leader when it comes to public education. Anything other than fully funding the schools going forward would be a major step back for us as a town. Best, Jason Roy.
Dolores, just repeat that name again.
Jason Roy.
I'm sorry.
Jason Roy, 20 Oldham Road.
Thank you.
Bill Huffman, 20 Oldham Road. Hello, I am writing in support of the proposed town budget, specifically fully funding of Wethersfield Public Schools. I am a graduate of the school system and want future generations to have the same experience I had as a student. Thank you. Bill Huffman, 20 Oldham Road.
Thank you.
Anthea Voldukis.
Vertilakis.
I am writing in strong support of the BOE budget as presented. Please read my written comment so that it's recorded. Thank you. A. Vertilakis.
Anthea Vertilakis.
She signed it with an A.
Okay, I have a letter from Suzanne Barton, 55 Main Street. And this is just a previous one that she had sent out to Gary. Hello, please read in entirety during public comment. I am writing in support of the town, the BOE, the Board of Education, but Library and Parks and Board Recreation budget. In a community that has limited possibilities for commercial tax revenue, we need to maximize our residential taxes. The best way to do that is to improve the property value of current and future homes. We need to make our town desirable for new families. As a new family that moved to Wethersfield 17 years ago, the tax rate of the town was one of the last items we evaluated. Schools were number one. However, I worry that new families will not come to the same conclusion we did and will seek homes and communities where schools are more supported in the annual budget. They will look to relocate to communities where schools are growing instead of losing programs year after year. Therefore, I strongly support adopting the current town Board of Education, Library, and Parks and Recreation budgets. A cut to these budgets will have long-term consequences to our town's desirability and attractiveness. I worry that these cuts may not only have new families looking to live elsewhere, but may force current residents to seek towns that actually support their schools. Thank you for your time. Suzanne Barton.
Okay, next one, David Drake, 14 Quail Hill. Please make an effort to keep the budget at 0% increase. Wethersfield's mill rate is now out of control compared to similar towns of our size. With the issues now caused by the virus, this makes our bad situation worse for taxpayers. I'm tired of hearing about just meeting contractual obligations. When these contracts were signed, someone had to think ahead that they would have to be paid for. It seems every year it's a 3 to 4% tax increase to just stay even with no new services. The rates of inflation have not had increases like these in years. This is the time to stop and help everyone out. David L. Drake, 14 Quail Hill.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Carolyn Akari McCarthy, 123 Stillwood Drive. Counselors and neighbors, please support the full funding of the school's budget with no cuts or reductions in services. If anything, we should be expanding our outreach to students, especially 1, special education students, and 2, those looking to fill the void without sports and extracurriculars. Thank you, Carolyn Akari McCarthy, 123 Stillwood Drive.
Okay, I have one from Maria Alfonso, 256 Brimfield Road. Dear Mayor Rell and all council members, as a longtime resident and taxpayer of our lovely town, I am deeply concerned that the proposed budget maintains the services and staffing levels the same without any increase in either categories. Given the many educational and/or economic needs the coronavirus pandemic has created and continues to create for working families, children, youth, seniors, and persons with disabilities. Our town's budget should be addressing the reality by helping these various communities within our town who desperately need assistance. Therefore, the budget should contain increases which will provide more services and more staff to help address the various challenges our neighbors are facing and will be facing in the months ahead. Austerity measures cause more pain and anxiety to vulnerable communities in our town, which is cruel but also short-sighted. As town leaders, you should consider how to best assist town residents in need so that once this pandemic subsides, these residents will be better positioned to return to their jobs, schools, and regular life activities with minimal trauma. Thank you for your consideration on this grave matter. Sincerely, Maria Alfonso.
Thank you, Dolores.
Yep. The next one, Larry Baril, no address stated. Dear Mayor and Councilmen, I live in Wethersfield and pay taxes there. I finally had a chance to take a look at the proposed budget summary and am frankly strongly discouraged by what I am reading. In this economic time, with town residents scratching for essentials, the country in dire economic condition, small businesses closing, etc., how can you justify a mill rate increase of nearly 4%? I work for another community in Connecticut, and we are facing many of the same challenges Wethersfield is, yet we are targeting a 0% tax increase. This isn't what we started with as we developed our budgets early in the fiscal year, but circumstances have changed. It's unfortunate, but it's time to freeze or even reduce spending, not increasing taxes, putting further burden and stress on the people you were elected by. I strongly urge you to reconsider the budget as presented. Regards, Lawrence Baril.
Cheryl, can you just spell that last name?
Baril.
Thank you.
I apologize if I pronounced that incorrectly.
Norma Cole, 10 Church Place. I'm against any budget increase going into the new fiscal tax year. During these most difficult times, people being out of work due to no fault of their own, we cannot afford an increase. I suggest the town stay on budget. It is time for local, state, and federal government to manage fiscal responsibilities that they were elected to do. It is much easier to spend money when you are spending other people's money. Our governor has already stated that most likely we will not see any tax relief. Cut spending, be responsible. Sincerely, Norma Cole, 10 Church Place.
And the last one I think we have is Daniel Silver, 23 Orchard Brook Drive. Please note that contrary to the comments of many members of the town council, there are many seniors, such as myself, that are concerned about the potential reduction in funding to the Board of Education. The one thing that makes Wethersfield such a wonderful place to live is the knowledge that we have a superior education system. I note that many members of the council want to have a 0% increase in taxes. In that event, there surely would be a drastic cut in funding for education, given the existing contractual obligations of the board, which is about 3%. An increase over increased taxes, about 3% over increase in taxes would hit the board badly. Such things as sports would have to be eliminated. My grandson, who is a senior, played 4 years of football. This participation allowed him to excel on the field as a quarterback and helped him in college admissions. Please take into consideration the future of our students when arriving at a final budget. We need to work together in these challenging times to reach a fair budget that allows for, at minimum, no cut in education funding. Daniel Silver.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think we do have one more.
Yes, Tracy Gianfrido.
Oh, I
Is that how you
didn't
say
get
that? Gianfrido, 43 Meadowgate. Please support the Board of Education budget. Education is very important to the families and citizens of this town. Superintendent Emmett has cut back the budget as much as he can. Please support it as proposed tonight.
Thank you.
Mayor, that concludes all of the public comments and all of the phone calls that I have listed here.
Okay. Now, Gary had mentioned was it a Norma Cole
Yes.
at 10 Church Place?
Yep.
Okay. Last name is C-O-L-E?
Correct.
And then Cheryl, the last one you just spoke of.
Tracy, last name is Gionfriddo.
Tracy Gianfrido?
Yep.
Okay.
Mayor, will we receive copies of all of these like we have in the past?
I believe so. We'll probably, I think they are all, if they're all submitted electronically, do they all get put into the minutes?
Yes.
Yep.
Entirely. And they've all been told that we would read them at the meeting entirely and that we would put it in the minutes. We also have them, we can certainly send all what we have already to you, counselors, if you'd like those first before the minutes are finished.
Yeah, we have them in a
Or we can
Word
get that.
document.
We do have a document for it.
That's fine. That's perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
And let me turn my iPad on to get the agenda back after a while. And I think that's, we don't have any approvals of any minutes or anything like that for us either, do we?
No.
Nope. The only thing were two presentations and public hearing is typically
Public comment.
what you do.
No more comments?
No.
I have no other numbers listed and nothing else to be read in.
Okay.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay? Ayes have it. We're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Gary.
Thank you all for listening.